Kid, I'm going to say this one time. Let go of my wallet or I break your arm. Ethan Walker didn't let go. He was 18 years old, 98 pounds of hunger and stubbornness, lying on the cracked pavement of a gas station lot outside Phoenix with a stranger's hand crushing his wrist. And inside that wallet was more money than he'd held in his entire life. Enough for a bed, enough for food, enough to stop being invisible. And he still wouldn't let go. Because the man twisting his arm wasn't the owner. And Ethan knew exactly who was. Before we go on, hit that subscribe button and stay with me all the way to the end of this one because the ending is not what you think. And do me a favor, drop the name of the city you're watching from in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. The hunger woke him before the sun did. It always did. That was the thing nobody told you about being hungry for a long time. It stopped being a feeling in your stomach and became a sound in your head, a low hum that started around 4 in the morning and didn't quit until you fed it or passed out. Ethan Walker had learned to tell time by that hum. He didn't own a watch. He didn't own a phone. He owned a backpack, 3 shirts, a hoodie with a broken zipper, 1 pair of sneakers with a hole worn through the left heel, and a photograph he never showed anybody. He sat up behind the shuttered laundromat on Cavalry Road and pressed the heels of his hands into his eyes until he saw colors. "Okay," he said out loud to nobody. "Okay, get up." He'd started talking to himself around month 2. It wasn't crazy. It was maintenance. When you go long enough without anyone saying your name, you start to forget the sound of it. And once you forget the sound of your own name, something in you starts to let go. So Ethan talked. He gave himself instructions. He argued with himself about small things. He kept himself company because there was nobody else volunteering for the job. "Get up, Walker. Come on." He got up. The sky over that stretch of desert highway was the color of an old bruised purple going gray, and the air still had the cold in it that people from back east never believed Arizona could have. He rolled his sleeping bag, a real one, a good one, the last thing he'd taken from the group home, and he still felt guilty about it and shoved it into the bottom of the backpack. Then the shirts, then the photograph wrapped in a plastic grocery bag so the sweat wouldn't get to it. Then he stood there for a second with his hand inside the bag, feeling for something that wasn't there. "Yeah," he said. "I know, there's no food. I checked yesterday." He zipped it up. The plan for the morning was the same as the plan for every morning. Walk the 2 miles to the Sunrise Fuel and go out on the county road, get there before the shift change, and check the dumpster behind the diner attached to it. The diner was called Dot's. Dot had died in 2011, but nobody had bothered to take her name off the sign, which Ethan found weirdly comforting. Somebody's name lasting longer than they did. Between 6:15 and 6:40, the night cook scraped the grills and threw out whatever hadn't sold biscuits, mostly sometimes hash browns once in a while, a whole tray of sausage links that had gone past the hold time but were still hot enough to burn your mouth. If you got there in that window, you ate. If you got there late, the bugs ate. Ethan walked. He'd gotten good at walking. He kept his head down and his hands out of his pockets because a kid with his hands in his pockets makes people nervous, and a kid who makes people nervous gets the cops called on him, and the cops meant questions, and questions meant paperwork, and paperwork. In Ethan's experience, never once in his life ended with somebody helping him. Halfway there, a truck slowed down beside him. Ethan's whole body went tight. The window came down. A man in his 50s, sunburned ball cap, looked him up and down. "You need a ride, son?" "No, sir. Thank you." "You sure it's a long stretch out here?" "I'm good. Thanks, though." The man looked at him another second, and Ethan watched his face do the thing that faces did. The math. The little flicker where a person adds up the sneakers and the backpack and the hollow cheeks and arrives at a number they don't like. "You got somewhere to be." "Yes, sir," Ethan lied. "All right." The man hesitated, and for one stupid second, Ethan's chest went warm because it genuinely looked like the guy was going to reach for his wallet or say something or ask a real question. He didn't. He nodded. He put the window up. He drove away. Ethan stood on the shoulder in the truck's dust and told himself the thing he told himself every time. "That's fine, that's fine, that's fine." He kept walking. He got to Sunrise Fuel and Go at 6:32. He was 8 minutes early, which was perfect, and he was about to cut around the back when the door of the store banged open and Marla came out with a cigarette already lit. Marla ran the register on the early shift. 50-something hair, like straw, voice like a cement mixer. She caught him in the dumpster in March and hadn't called anybody, which in Ethan's world made her practically family. Nope, she said. Ethan stopped. Marla. Nope, don't Marla me. I'm not doing anything. You're doing the thing where you go around back, and I gotta pretend I didn't see you go around back. She pointed at him with the cigarette. Manager's on today. Ethan's stomach dropped. Dale's here on a Saturday. Dale's here every day now. Dale's got a system. She said the word like it tasted bad. He counts the trash, honey. He literally counts the trash bags. He thinks people are stealing garbage. People are stealing garbage. That's me. I'm people. Marla laughed once, a short bark, and then stopped, like she was mad at herself for it. Yeah, well, he's got it in his head. There's a homeless problem out here. There's one homeless guy out here. That's what I told him. She took a drag. He said, one's how it starts. Ethan looked at the ground. He'd like to say he argued. He'd like to say he stood up straight and said something with dignity in it. But he was 18 and he hadn't eaten since a gas station hot dog 2 days ago that a trucker had bought him without a word and handed over like he was passing contraband. And dignity was a thing you could afford or you couldn't. Marla, don't. I'm not asking for money. I know what you're not asking for. She smoked. She looked out at the road. She looked back at him, and her voice dropped about 40% of its gravel. How long you been out here now? I don't know. Since February. It's September, kid. Yeah. February to September. I know how months work, Marla. She stared at him. And this was the part Ethan hated. Not the hunger, the staring, the moment where somebody actually looked at him and he could see it hit them, could see them realize he was a real person and not a shape in a doorway, and could see the discomfort of that realization make them want to be somewhere else. He'd made a rule about it, never let them get past 3 seconds. 3 seconds and they start feeling guilty, and guilt makes people cruel. So he broke it first every time. It's fine, he said, and gave her the smile. He had a good smile. It had gotten him out of 2 beatings and into 1 shelter bed. Seriously, I'm figuring it out. I got a lead on a job at that landscaping place. You don't have a lead on a job at the landscaping place. I might have a lead on a coom at the landscaping place. You don't got a phone, Ethan. How they gonna call you? He didn't have an answer for that. Nobody ever asked the second question. Marla was the only person in 8 months who'd ever asked the second question, and he found to his enormous embarrassment that his eyes were stinging. Hey, her voice sharpened. Hey, no, don't you do that. I'm not doing anything. You're doing it. I got dust in my eyes. Sure. She flicked the cigarette, ground it out with her shoe, and looked at the store door like it might be listening. Then she said, very fast and very quiet, sausage biscuits go out at 6:50. Dale takes his first smoke at 6:55 out the front. You come around back at 6:56, you got maybe 90 seconds, and if he sees you, I will swear on my mother's grave, I never met you in my life. You understand me? Ethan's throat closed up. Yeah, he managed. Don't say thank you. I'm not doing you a favor. I just don't want to smell garbage all day because you knocked the can over. Okay. Don't say thank you. I didn't. You were gonna. I was gonna, he admitted. She went inside. Ethan walked around to the side of the building where the shadow was put his back against the cool concrete block and slid down until he was sitting, and he put his face in his hands for about 4 seconds. 4 whole seconds, which was 1 more than he allowed anybody else, and then he wiped his face on his sleeve and got up and started counting minutes. That's when the bikes came in. He heard them before he saw them. Everybody within a mile heard them before they saw them. It started as a rumble down the county road, a sound you felt in the fillings of your teeth, and then they came off the highway in a line, 11, 12, 13 of them, and rolled into the lot with that heavy, unhurried authority that made every other vehicle in the world look like it was apologizing. Ethan pressed himself flat against the wall. Not out of fear exactly, out of policy. He didn't know these men. He knew the vests. Everybody knew the vests. Black leather, the winged skull. The words arched across the top and the bottom. He'd seen it on TV. He'd heard the stories. In his experience, groups of men who all dressed alike were bad news for people who dressed like nobody at all. Rule 1 of 8 months on the street, don't be interesting. He watched them dismount. He watched them stretch and laugh and slap each other's shoulders. He watched one of them, big man gray in his beard, maybe 55, moving like his knees had opinions, say something that made the whole group crack up, and the sound of it did something painful in Ethan's chest that he didn't have a word for. It wasn't envy of the bikes. It wasn't envy of the money. It was the laughing. They walked into Dots in a loose knot, 12 men who all knew where the door was because they'd been there before, and one of them held it open for the others without being asked, and the door swung shut, and the lot was quiet again. Ethan checked the sun. Almost time. He came around the corner toward the back of the building, moving quick, and his eyes were on the dumpster, locked on it, the way a starving person's eyes lock on anything, which is exactly why he almost stepped right past the thing lying in the gravel between the second and third motorcycle. Something black. He stopped. He didn't want to stop. Everything in him was screaming, 90 seconds. You have 90 seconds, but his body had already stopped the way a body does when it recognizes something before the brain catches up. It was a wallet. Black leather worn soft, folded over, sitting in the gravel about 4 feet from a chrome exhaust pipe, like it had fallen out of a jacket pocket during a stretch. Ethan stood over it for a long moment. No, he said out loud. He looked at the diner door. He looked at the dumpster. He looked at the wallet. No, 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 don't. Walk away. He picked it up. Later, much later, when he tried to explain this part to somebody who mattered, he would say he didn't remember deciding to pick it up. He remembered his hand doing it. He remembered the weight of it, which was the first surprise because it was heavy, and a wallet has no business being heavy. He stepped back between 2 bikes where the sightline from the diner window was broken, and he opened it, and his heart stopped. Not a figure of speech. Something in his chest genuinely stumbled and had to restart. Hundreds. A fold of $100 bills so thick the leather couldn't close flat over it. He didn't count them. He couldn't have. His hands were shaking too hard to separate them. But he'd spent 8 months doing math with dimes, and he knew what he was looking at. 2,000, maybe 3, maybe more. Oh my God, he whispered. He looked around. Nobody. The lot was empty. Marla was inside at the register with her back to the window. The bikers were in a booth on the far side of the diner with plates in front of them. Dale was out front having his cigarette exactly like she said, staring at the road with his back to everything. Nobody was watching. Nobody was watching. And that was the moment, the real one. The one nobody ever sees, the one that happens in 11 seconds in a gas station parking lot with nobody around and no witnesses and no cameras pointed the right way. That was the moment Ethan Walker's life split into 2 roads. He knew exactly what that money was. It was a motel room, a real bed with sheets, a door that locked, a shower where he could stand under hot water until his skin went pink and scrub 8 months off of himself. It was 3 meals a day for a month. It was a phone which meant a number, which meant an application, which meant a bond, which meant everything. Because the whole cruel joke of it was that you needed an address to get a bomb, and you needed a boss to get an address. And the only thing standing between Ethan Walker and a human life was a few $100s he had absolutely no way on God's earth to ever get. It was a bus ticket. Anywhere. Somewhere with green in it. It was the end of being invisible, and nobody would ever know. His hands were shaking so bad the bills were making a sound. Just take it, he said. His voice came out wrong hoarse, and he looked around like somebody else had said it. Just take it. Nobody's looking. He's got more. Look at the bike, he's got more. This is nothing to him. He stopped. This is nothing to him, he finished quieter. And he heard very clearly in his own head a voice he hadn't heard in 4 years. You know what the difference is between poor and trash, Ethan? Nothing. Not a damn thing, except one of them decides. Roy Tucker, his 3rd foster placement. The only one worth remembering. A man with emphysema in a workshop and about 900 rules who had, over the course of 14 months, taught Ethan how to change a tire, how to shake a hand, and how to look somebody in the eye when you tell them a thing they don't want to hear. Roy had gone into the hospital on a Thursday in October, and Ethan had gone back into the system on the following Monday, and that was the whole story of the best year of his life. Roy, shut up, Ethan whispered. You're not here. You don't get a vote. You left. He squeezed his eyes shut. His stomach cramped so hard he had to put his hand on the seat of the motorcycle to stay standing, and he heard himself make a small sound he was ashamed of. Please, he said to nobody, to the sky, to the God he'd stopped talking to in February. Please just let me have this one, just this one. I have never once asked for. He opened his eyes to look at the money one more time, and that's when he saw the photograph. It was tucked behind the bills in the flap where you'd put a receipt. Bent at one corner, sun faded across the top. Old. 8 men standing in front of 8 motorcycles, shoulder to shoulder, arms around each other, squinting into the sun. Somewhere with mountains behind it. The kind of picture where you can tell the guy taking it was saying something funny because half of them are laughing at the camera and not at each other. And in the middle of them, one man with his head thrown back, mid-laugh, gray in his beard, big hands on the shoulders of the 2 men beside him. The same man who'd made the whole group crack up in the parking lot 20 minutes ago. Ethan stared at the photograph for a long time. He'd have been fine. That's the thing he'd tell somebody later. If it had just been money, he'd have been fine. Money's an idea, money's a number. You can take a number from a stranger and never think about it again. But a man doesn't carry a photograph like that in his wallet for 20 years because of what it's worth. He carries it because those are the only people on earth who came back for him. Ethan looked at the 8 laughing men, and he thought, I have never once in my whole life been in a picture with anybody. His face crumpled. He put the back of his wrist against his mouth hard and held it there until it passed, because there is nothing in this world more dangerous than crying in a parking lot where somebody might see you. Okay, he said, when he could. His voice was wrecked. Okay. He folded the wallet shut. Okay, Roy, you win. You always win. You're dead and you still win. And here's what people don't understand about that moment, and what Ethan himself wouldn't understand for another year. He didn't decide to be honest. He decided who he was, because he'd been standing in that lot doing the only math that had ever really mattered. Not what do I get if I take it, but what am I if I take it? And he'd come to the end of the arithmetic and found that the answer was then, Calvin Reed was right about me and Dale was right about me. And every single person who ever looked at me for 3 seconds and then looked away was right about me, and there was never anything here worth saving in the first place. And he wasn't willing to sign that. He was hungry. He wasn't that. He put the wallet in his hand, gripped it hard enough to leave marks in the leather, and started walking toward the diner door. He got 9 steps. Hey, Ethan turned. A man was coming across the lot toward him, fast waving one hand over his head. 40-ish. Sunglasses pushed up in his hair. A polo shirt tucked into jeans and a smile so wide and so ready, it looked like he'd taken it out of a drawer that morning. Oh, thank God! The man sighed, laughing, hand on his chest. Oh, thank God, kid, you found it. You found it. I've been tearing that store apart for 10 minutes. Ethan didn't move. That's mine, the man said and put his hand out, palm up, still smiling. Man, you have no idea. My whole life's in there. Hand it over, I'll take care of you. Right, I got you? I'm gonna take care of you. Ethan looked at the hand, then he looked at the man's face. And a thing happened in Ethan Walker that he had never once in 18 years been able to explain to a caseworker, or a teacher, or a judge. A thing that comes free with a childhood like his. A thing you'd trade in a heartbeat if you could. He could smell a lie. Not hear it, smell it. 8 foster homes teaches you the exact frequency of an adult who wants something and is being nice about it. And Ethan had been fluent in that frequency since he was 6 years old. What's your name? Ethan said. The smile flickered. Half a beat. Recovered. What? Your name? Buddy, it's my wallet. Then it's an easy question. The man laughed, and this time there was something underneath the laugh, something with a floor of gravel under it. Come on, don't do this. You know what you want. A reward, is that it? That's fair. That's totally fair. You did the right thing, you deserve something. Hand it here and I'll give you, he snapped his fingers, thinking, $40, right now, cash. $40 for 2 seconds of work, that's the best wage in Arizona, kid. Say your name. Calvin? It came out with a hiss on the end. Calvin Reed. There. Happy. Ethan opened the wallet, slowly, deliberately, keeping his eyes on the man the whole time. He tilted it and looked down for exactly 1 second at the license behind the plastic window. Jackson T. Cole. He closed the wallet. Yeah, no, Ethan said. I think you should talk to the owner. And every bit of the friendly evaporated off Calvin Reed's face like water hitting a hot skillet. Ethan watched it happen and felt the temperature of the whole morning change. Listen to me, Calvin said, and stepped in close and dropped his voice to something almost gentle, which was so much worse. Listen, look at yourself. Look at you. When's the last time you took a shower, huh? You know what happens right now? If I go in there and say the homeless kid in the parking lot's got my wallet, you know what happens? Yeah, you do. I know exactly what happens, Ethan said. It's happened before. Then be smart. I'm going to give it to the guy whose name is on it, Ethan said. That's all. That's the whole thing. It's not complicated. Calvin Reed stared at him, and Ethan watched a man do the math on him for the second time that morning. But this was different math. This was a man looking at a 100-pound kid with a torn backpack and no phone, and no address, and no lawyer, and no father, and no one in the entire world who would notice or care or make a single phone call about it if something happened to him in a gravel lot on a county road at 7 in the morning. Calvin arrived at his number, and he smiled again. Different smile. Okay, he said. Okay, kid. You want to do it the hard way. He grabbed Ethan's wrist. Ethan yanked back hard, all of it, every ounce he had, and got exactly nowhere because Calvin Reed outweighed him by 70 pounds. And Ethan Walker hadn't eaten in 2 days, and that is simply what physics is. Let go. Give me the help, Ethan shouted. Somebody. Calvin twisted. Ethan's feet went out from under him on the gravel, and he went down hard on his hip and his elbow. The pain, white and immediate, and the strap of his backpack caught on something and tore clean through with a sound like paper ripping, and 8 months of his entire existence went out across the pavement. The sleeping bag, 2 shirts, the hoodie, the photograph still in his plastic grocery bag skidding to a stop by the front tire of a Harley. No. Ethan lunged for it. Calvin stepped on his forearm, not stomped, stepped, casually, the way you'd put your foot on a curb, and leaned down and started prying at Ethan's fingers one at a time and said in a low, reasonable voice, "Let go, you stupid little..." Ethan didn't let go. He should have. Any sane person would have. There was no version of this where he won. He was on his back in the gravel with a man's boot on his arm, and his whole life scattered around him, and a wallet in his fist that wasn't his, that had never been his, that he had already decided 10 minutes ago he wasn't going to keep. And he could have opened his hand and made it stop and gone right back to being exactly what he was 5 minutes before. He didn't let go. His fingers were bending backward. He heard himself make a sound, and through the roaring in his ears, he heard his own voice breaking, saying something that surprised even him. "It's not yours. Nobody cares, kid." Calvin's face was inches away now, red spit at the corner of his mouth, the mask completely off. Look around. Look. You think anybody's coming. You think anybody in the whole world is coming for you. Nobody knows your name. And that of everything of the boot, in the fingers, in the hunger, in 8 months, in 8 houses, in February to September, that was the thing that finally broke him. Because it was true. Because he'd been telling himself for 8 months that it wasn't that somebody somewhere had him written down on a list, that he was a person with a file and a birth certificate and a social security number. And therefore he existed. And here was a stranger in a polo shirt saying the quiet thing out loud with his foot on Ethan's arm, and it was true. And Ethan felt something in his chest give way like a rope going slack. His eyes blurred, and he still didn't let go. "Kid," Calvin said, "I'm going to say this one time. Let go of my wallet or I break your arm." Ethan looked up at him. He had gravel in the back of his skull and blood in his mouth, and there was no cavalry. There was never any cavalry. There had not been one single time in 18 years. "It's not," Ethan said, "yours." Calvin drew his hand back, and a voice came out of the morning like a door slamming in an empty house. "Get your hands off him." Everything stopped. Ethan couldn't see. His eyes were streaming, and Calvin's shadow was over his face. He heard boots on gravel. Not fast. That was the thing he remembered afterward, the detail that stuck in him like a splinter for the rest of his life. The man wasn't in a hurry. "I said get your hands off the kid." The weight came off Ethan's arm. "Whoa! Whoa, hey!" Calvin's voice sliding right back into that drawer smile smooth as oil on water. "Hey, brother, this kid's a thief. I caught him. He lifted my wallet out of the store. I chased him out here." That's so. Swear to God, little junkie's been casing the place all morning. Ask the manager. Ethan rolled onto his side and got his eyes clear. There was a man standing 8 feet away with his thumbs hooked in his belt. Big, gray in the beard, 55, maybe, moving like his knees had opinions. Black leather vest, and Ethan could see the edge of the patch where it came around the side. The same man from the photograph, 20 years older. Same laugh lines. Not laughing. Ryder Cole didn't look at Calvin Reed at all. He was looking at the ground, at the sleeping bag, the 2 shirts, the hoodie with the broken zipper, the torn backpack. At a boy's entire estate spread out across a parking lot. Then he looked at Ethan's hand, at the black leather wallet still in it, Knuckles' white fingers bent the wrong way and refusing to open. Nobody said anything for what felt like a year. And Ethan, because he was 18, because he was on the ground, because it was the only thing he had left, and he was going to get it out before anybody could take it from him. Ethan held the wallet up toward the man with both hands, like he was handing back something he'd found in church, and said in a voice that came apart in the middle, "It's yours. It's all in there. I didn't take anything. I swear to God, I didn't take anything. I was bringing it to you. I was walking it to you." And Jackson Cole crouched down in the gravel in front of him, slow, elbows on his knees, close enough that Ethan could smell coffee and engine oil and cigarettes. He didn't reach for the wallet. He looked at Ethan's face, really looked, and Ethan braced for the 3 seconds, braced for the flicker, braced for the math and the discomfort and the looking away that always came, and it didn't come. 4 seconds, 5, 6. The man just looked at him, steady as a wall, like there was nowhere else in the entire world he needed to be, and something behind his eyes got very quiet. Then Jackson Cole reached past him. He picked the plastic grocery bag up off the gravel of Ramones, and inside it, the photograph. He looked at it, a woman on a porch step with a baby on her hip, squinting into a Tucson sun that had set 18 years ago, and his jaw moved once. He put it in Ethan's hand and closed the boy's fingers around it with both of his own. "Son," he said, "when was the last time you ate?" And Ethan Walker, who had not cried in front of another human being since he was 11 years old, who had built his entire existence on the load-bearing wall of never let them see it, opened his mouth to say, "I'm fine." And nothing came out at all. Nothing came out at all. Ethan's mouth was open and his jaw was working, and there was just no sound in him, and the shame of that was worse than the boot had been. He put his hand over his face. "Hey," Calvin said behind them. "Hey, come on. He's playing you, man. They do this. I'm telling you, this is a whole routine with these." "You still here?" Jackson Cole didn't turn around. He didn't even raise his voice. "I'm just saying, I heard what you're saying." Cole stood up. His knees popped like knuckles, and he made a small sound about it. And then he turned around, and Ethan, with his hands still over his eyes, heard the exact moment the gravel stopped crunching under Calvin Reed's feet. "What's your name?" "Calvin." "Calvin what?" A pause. "Reed." "Calvin Reed." Cole said it slowly, like he was writing it on something. "Okay, Calvin Reed, you want to tell me again how that's your wallet?" "It is my." "What's in it?" "What's your It's your wallet. Tell me what's in it." The silence went on about 2 seconds too long, and Ethan took his hand off his face just in time to see Calvin's whole body reorganize itself. "Cash," Calvin said. "Couple $100. Cards, the usual." "Couple hundred?" "Yeah." "How much is a couple the—" "I don't count it, man who counts." "I do," Cole said. "$2,800. It's $2,800, and it's my sister's kid's tuition, and I pulled it out of a credit union in Kingman at 4:30 this morning. And you know how I know it's $2,800? Because I counted it 3 times before I put it in my jacket, because that's what a man does when he's carrying somebody else's money." Nobody said anything. "So no," Cole said. "It's not yours." The door of the diner banged open. Ethan heard it, and his stomach turned over because he knew that sound, and he knew what came out of that door. But it wasn't Dale. It was Boots, a lot of Boots, and when he looked up, there were 4 of them coming across the lot and 2 more standing in the doorway, and they weren't running. None of them were running, they were just coming, and Calvin Reed took 1 step backward before he could stop himself. "Ryder. A younger one, maybe 30, shaved head. We good? We're fine." "You sure? 'Cause it don't look fine." "Tank." I'm just asking. I know what you're asking. The answer's no. The one called Tank looked down at Ethan on the ground and then at the sleeping bag and the shirts and the torn backpack scattered out across the gravel. And Ethan watched his face go through about 4 things in a row, none of them good. Who did that, Tank? I'm asking who did that. And I'm telling you to go back inside and drink your coffee. Tank didn't move. Neither did Cole. And Ethan lay there on his hip in the gravel with his fingers throbbing and watched 2 enormous men have an entire argument without either of them saying another word. And then Tank exhaled through his nose and turned around and did not go back inside. He just moved about 10 feet to the left and stood there with his arms folded. Position Ethan noticed and would think about later, directly between Calvin Reed and the road. Now, Cole said, Calvin, here is how this goes. You're going to walk to your car. This is insane. I found a kid with a... You're going to walk to your car and you're going to get in it and nobody's going to touch you. Nobody's laying a hand on you. You understand me? Nobody here is going to give you the thing you're going to go tell people about. Calvin's mouth opened. But you and me are square on one thing, Cole said. You put your foot on a kid's arm in a parking lot at 7 in the morning. And I saw it. So whatever else happens in your life from here on out, that's a thing that's true, and you're going to have to carry it. You don't know anything about... I know you knew he wouldn't be believed, Cole said. That's what I know. That's the only part I need. He turned his back on him. That was the thing that got to Ethan, not the words. The man just turned around like Calvin Reed had already left, like he was weather that had already passed, and started picking up shirts off the pavement. Hey, Calvin said. Hey, hey. Cole shook the dust off a hoodie with a broken zipper and folded it over his arm. You're gonna regret this, Calvin said quietly. Uh-huh. No, you are? I'm serious. You have no idea what you just... He stopped. He laughed, and it came out wrong, high and thin. You know what, fine. That's fine. Enjoy your breakfast. He walked away. Ethan watched him go. And here's the part nobody in that lot understood at the time, including Ethan. He was the only one watching Calvin's face. Everybody else was watching his back. And Calvin Reed, walking to his car with a dozen men's eyes on him, didn't look humiliated. He didn't look scared. He looked like a man who'd just been handed something. The car door shut, the engine turned, and Ethan felt every hair on his arm stand straight up. Kid. Cole was crouched down again with the sleeping bag in his hands. Can you stand? Yeah. You sure your arm? I'm fine. Kid. I'm fine. It came out sharper than he meant. Way sharper. And Ethan heard it and immediately wanted to crawl under one of the bikes and die, because you don't snap at the man who just saved you. You don't know, that's the fastest way to find out that saving you was conditional. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean... Don't do that. Do what? That. Cole handed him the sleeping bag. Whatever that just was, don't do it with me. Ethan didn't know what to say to that. Nobody had ever told him not to do it. Everybody loved when he did it. It was the whole reason he was still alive. He got up, his arm hurt, his hip hurt worse. He stood there holding a sleeping bag and a plastic grocery bag with a photograph in it, and he suddenly had no idea what to do with his hands, or his body, or his face. Your wallet, he said and held it out. Cole looked at it. Take it, Ethan said. Please, please just take it. I don't want it. I don't want to be holding it anymore. Cole took the wallet. He didn't open it. That was the second thing that got to Ethan, and it got to him worse than the first. The man just put it in his back pocket without looking inside, and Ethan heard himself blurt, You didn't count it. Nope. It's $2,800. I know. You should count it. Why? Because Ethan's voice cracked and he hated it. Because I was standing here for 10 minutes with it open. Because you don't know me. Because I could have, but you didn't. You don't know that I am, son. Cole scratched his beard. There is a man in that parking lot who told me it was his wallet and couldn't tell me what was in it. And there's you telling me to count it. I've been doing this 58 years. That's not a hard one. Ethan stood there with his mouth open. And then his stomach cramped, a real one, the kind that folds you, and he made a noise and put his hand on a motorcycle seat, and Cole caught his elbow. Whoa, okay. I'm fine. You keep saying that word. I don't think you know what it means. Cole didn't let go of his elbow. When'd you eat? I don't. Thursday. There was a guy at the truck stop. He bought me a... It's Saturday. Yeah, it's Saturday morning. Yeah. Cole was quiet for a second. Tank, he said, go tell Dolores we need another plate. On it. Wait, Ethan pulled his arm back. No, no, sir, I'm not doing that. Doing what? Whatever this is. His face was hot. I didn't give it back for a sandwich. I'm not, that I didn't do it for I know. So don't. Kid, if you'd done it for a sandwich, I wouldn't be buying you one. Ethan opened his mouth, closed it. Come inside, Cole said. Sit down, eat. Nobody's asking you for anything and nobody's keeping score. And if you want to walk out that door, after you walk out that door, and I'll never say a word about it. But you're not standing in a parking lot with your ribs showing while I eat pancakes 20 feet away. That's not a thing I'm going to do today. Why? The word came out before Ethan could stop it, and it came out ugly, and it wasn't polite, and it was the realest thing he'd said all morning. Why, you don't know me. I'm nobody. I'm a kid you found in a parking lot. Why do you care? Cole looked at him for a long moment. Because you didn't let go, he said. And he walked toward the diner without looking back to see if Ethan was following, which Ethan understood much later was the entire point. It wasn't a leash, it was a door left open. Ethan followed. They put him in a booth in the back corner, and he sat with his back to the wall out of pure reflex, and Dolores came over with coffee he hadn't ordered and set it down without a word and went away again, and Ethan wrapped both hands around it and couldn't stop them shaking. You cold? No. You're shaking. I know. Cole let it go. 12 men in that diner, and Ethan could feel every single one of them not looking at him. That was the thing, they weren't staring. They'd all decided not to stare at the same time without discussing it, and somehow that was louder than staring. The food came. Ethan looked at it, and something behind his eyes went sideways. 3 eggs, hash browns, 4 strips of bacon, 2 biscuits, a short stack. It was more food than he had seen in one place in 8 months, and it was sitting in front of him, and the smell of it hit him so hard his mouth flooded, and his eyes did too. He picked up the fork. He put it down. Kid, give me a second. I said give me a second. His voice broke clean in half on the last word. Nobody in that diner said anything. Somebody's spoon stopped moving in a cup and then very deliberately started moving again. Ethan sat there with his fist against his mouth and breathed through his nose for about 15 seconds, and then he picked up the fork and started eating, and he ate like an animal, and he knew he was eating like an animal, and he could not stop. He got about halfway through the eggs before it hit him. He put the fork down fast and pressed his hand flat against his sternum. Slow, Cole said quietly. Slow down. Your stomach shrunk. You go too fast, you're going to lose it, and then you wasted it. Drink some water. There you go, now go slow. Ethan drank the water. He went slow. And somewhere in the middle of that plate, around the second biscuit, which he ate in small pieces, like a normal person, like a person at a table, something in his chest let go that he'd been holding since February, and he had to stop again for a minute. And Cole picked up a newspaper somebody had left on the seat and read it, and didn't look at him for 2 full minutes. And Ethan understood he was being given privacy in the middle of a crowded diner, which was a kind of gift nobody had ever thought to give him. What's your name? Cole said from behind the paper. Ethan. Ethan what? Walker. The paper came down. You got people Ethan Walker? No, sir. None? No, sir. Where'd you come from? Group home in Mesa. Before that, a bunch of places. Before that, he shrugged. There's not a before that. Not one I remember. How long you been out? Since February. I aged out in February. Cole set the paper down entirely. They put you out on your birthday. Not exactly. Ethan pushed a hash brown around. 2 weeks after. They let you stay a little. They gave me a folder. A folder. Yeah, it had like a list of shelters and a bus pass and a pamphlet about, he laughed. It wasn't a good laugh. About budgeting. Cole didn't say anything. That's not a joke, Ethan said. It was a real pamphlet. It had a pie chart. Where's the folder now? I don't know. I lost it somewhere around March. He looked up. Sir, can I ask you something? You can quit calling me sir. What do I call you, Ryder? That's not a name. It's been my name for 30 years. What's your real name? Cole looked at him with something almost like amusement. You are a mouthy little thing when you got food in you, you know that. Sorry. Don't be sorry, Jackson. Jackson, Ethan repeated. And then because he was full and warm and his guard had come down about 2 inches, which was 1.5 inches more than it had come down in 4 years. Can I ask the other thing? Go ahead. Why'd you turn your back on him? Cole raised an eyebrow. That guy, Calvin. You turned around and walked away from him. Ethan pushed his plate an inch. That's the part we don't get. Everything else I get. But you turned your back on him, and I've been sitting here for 10 minutes trying to figure out why that scared me more than him stepping on my arm. The whole table went quiet. Tank 3 seats down stopped chewing. Huh, Cole said. What? Nothing, just huh. He turned his coffee cup around in a circle. That's a hell of a question for 18. You gonna answer it? Yeah. Cole leaned back. 'Cause if I'd hit him, we'd be having a different conversation right now. There'd be a report. There'd be a photo of my patch on the news. There'd be 6 guys from my club in a room with a lawyer, and you'd be a kid who caused it. He looked at Ethan. You'd have spent the rest of your life thinking you cost 12 men something, and you didn't do anything but pick up a wallet. Ethan stared at him. Also, Cole said, hitting him's what he wanted. What? Think about it. He was getting his... He came at you in a lot with 12 bikes in it, Cole said, at 7 in the morning, in front of a security camera. Does that sound like a smart criminal to you? Ethan's fork stopped. He didn't know you were there, he said slowly. Didn't he? Ethan's mouth went dry. He was watching. He was watching the store. Marla said Dale's been jumpy about... He stopped. Oh, there it is. He's local. He's local, Cole agreed. He knows the manager, knows the cameras, knows the shift change. And he knows exactly what happens in a town like this when a man in a polo shirt says one thing and a kid with a torn backpack says another. He picked up his coffee. That's not a guy who saw an opportunity, son. That's a guy with his system. You just happened to be standing in the middle of it. Ethan looked down at his plate. His hands had started shaking again, and this time it had nothing to do with hunger. Then he's not done, he said. No, he's not done. Ethan, you don't understand. Ethan was sitting up now all the way up, and his voice had gone thin and fast. You don't get it. I know guys like that. I've lived with guys like that. A guy like that doesn't lose in front of people and go home. He can't. Losing in front of people is the whole thing. That's the only thing that matters to him. He has to get it back. Hey, and he can't touch you, right? He can't touch you. 12 of you. He can't. Ethan stopped. The blood went out of his face. Cole watched him get there. He's going to do it to me. To me, Ethan said. Nobody argued with him. He's going to do it to me. Today. He was already sliding out of the booth. I got to go. I got to Marla. I got to tell Marla if he goes to Dale, then sit down. You don't understand that lot is where I sleep. Sit down. Ethan sat down. He didn't even decide to. His body just did it the way it had been doing it for 18 years whenever a grown man used that voice, and he hated himself so much in that second that his vision went gray at the edges. And then Cole said quietly, I'm sorry. That wasn't fair. Look at me. Ethan looked at him. That's a thing I shouldn't have done, Cole said. I know what that voice does. I got used it on me too. I'm sorry. Ethan didn't have anywhere to put that. Nobody had ever apologized to him. Not once. Not one adult, not one time in 18 years and 8 houses. He sat there with his hand flat on the table and genuinely could not process the sentence. You're right about him, Cole said. You're right, so here's what we're going to do. He took a pen out of his vest and a napkin off the table and wrote on it. That's my number. That's my actual number, not the shop, not a machine. That phone's in my pocket 24 hours a day, and it's on right now. He slid it across. You take that, and if anything happens, anything, I don't care what time it is. I don't care if you think it's stupid. I don't care if you think you're bothering me. You call it. Ethan looked at the napkin, 10 digits in blue ink. And something in him, the part that had kept him alive since he was 6 years old, the part that was smarter than he was and meaner than he was and had never once been wrong, sat up and said very calmly, Don't. I don't have a phone, Ethan said. Payphone, borrow one. Ask a stranger, tell him it's an emergency, most folks will let you. Okay? Ethan. I said okay. Look at me. Cole waited until he did. You're not going to call. Ethan's jaw tightened. I've seen that face before, Cole said. That's the face of a kid who's gonna put that napkin in his pocket and be real polite about it and then never ever use it. That's not. How many people gave you a number? Silence. How many people, Cole said, in 18 years gave you a number and said, call me? Ethan looked at the table. 4, he said. How many answered? 2. And the 2 that answered, Ethan's throat worked. They were nice about it, he said. And that they were nice about it was the worst sentence anybody in that booth had ever heard. And every man within earshot understood it perfectly. And Tank got up and went to the bathroom and did not come back for 4 minutes. Yeah, Cole said. Okay. I'm not trying to be. You're not being anything. You're being smart. Cole tapped the napkin. Take it anyway. Ethan took it. He folded it in half and put it in the pocket of his jeans. And he was so sure, so completely sure, sitting in that booth with a full stomach for the first time since winter, that he would never use it, that he'd find it in a month, and it would just be a napkin, and he'd feel stupid for a second and then throw it away. Thank you for breakfast, he said. Seriously, I mean it. Where are you gonna go? I got a spot. That's not what I asked. I got a spot, Ethan said. It's fine. It's not a sad thing. Okay, it's got a roof and it's dry and nobody bothers me. I've had worse. I'm not like, he gestured vaguely. I'm not the saddest guy you'll meet today. Cole looked at him for a second. You might be, he said. Ethan laughed. He was surprised by it. It came out of him sideways, and he clapped his hand over his mouth, and Cole grinned into his coffee, and for about 4 seconds, 4 whole seconds, Ethan Walker sat in a booth in a diner and felt like a person. That was 8:40 in the morning. By 8:40 that night, his life was on fire. He didn't see it start. That was the thing he couldn't get past afterward, that the whole thing happened while he was happy. He spent that day walking around like an idiot with his hands in his pockets. He wasn't hungry. He'd forgotten what it felt like to walk around not hungry. He filled out an application at the landscaping place, actually filled one out. And when he got the phone number, he stood there for a second, and then he wrote down the 10 digits off the napkin, and then he scribbled them out so hard he tore the paper, because you don't do that to somebody. You don't put a stranger's number on a form. And he handed it in with the phone line blank, and the woman looked at it and said, "We'll be in touch," the way you say it when you won't. He didn't care. He genuinely didn't care. He came back to the lot at 8 because that's what he did, and Marla was standing outside and she wasn't smoking. That's how he knew, Marla. Don't come any closer. He stopped 40 feet out. What? I mean it. Don't come in the lot. Her voice was doing something he had never heard it do. Ethan, honey, turn around. Marla, what happened? Turn around. The store door opened. Dale came out, and behind him, hands in his pockets, sunglasses up in his hair, looking not one bit different than he had at 7 in the morning, was Calvin Reed. Ethan stopped breathing. That's him, Calvin said. Yeah, Dale said. I know who he is. Dale, Marla said. Dale, don't. You want to keep your job? Marla. Ethan watched something die in Marla's face. It was very fast. It took less than a second, and she looked at the ground and she stepped back. And that was somehow the single worst moment of the entire day. Hey, Ethan said. His voice came out very small. Hey, Dale, listen. You've been living behind my property. I haven't. There's a sleeping bag behind my building. There's garbage behind my building. You've been going in my dumpster. Okay, yeah, the dumpster. That's okay. That's true. I'll stop. I swear to God, I'll never come back here. I'm not. I don't want any trouble. This gentleman says you took his wallet. He's lying. He's lying, Dale repeated flatly. Yes, ask the Dale, ask the cameras. Ask the camera. It's right there. It's pointed right at the... Camera's been broke since June, Dale said. Ethan's mouth stayed open. He looked at Calvin, and Calvin Reed looked back at him, and his face did nothing at all, absolutely nothing. And that's when Ethan understood that Calvin had known that before he ever walked into the store. Camera's broke, Ethan said. Yeah. You just said out loud in front of him. What's that supposed to mean? He knows it's broke. Ethan's voice tore. That's why Dale, listen to me, listen. He came at me at 7 in the morning in a lot full of witnesses. Why would he do that? Why would anybody do that unless he knew? Witnesses, Dale said. You mean the Hells Angels? Silence. You want me to call up the Hells Angels, Dale said, and ask them to vouch for you. Ethan opened his mouth and nothing came out because there it was. There was the whole trick laid out flat on the table, and it was so simple and so perfect that he almost admired it. He had 12 witnesses, and they were the wrong 12. That's what I thought, Dale said. Dale, Marla's voice cracked. He's 18 years old. I'm not arguing about it. He's a kid. He's a liability, Dale snapped. And if he's out there and somebody gets hurt, it's my name on it. And I'm not Marla. I'm not doing this with you. He turned back to Ethan. Your stuff's gone. Ethan blinked. What? I had Ray put it in the compactor at 4 o'clock. The world went very far away and very quiet. What? It's garbage on my property. That's the definition. That's literally what that means. There was a photograph in there. Ethan didn't recognize his own voice. It had gone somewhere small and strange. There was my backpack. There was, you want to file a complaint, there's a form. There was a photograph of my mother in that bag. Nobody said anything. Dale? Marla whispered. It's garbage, Dale said, but something had gone out of his voice and he wouldn't look at anybody, and he turned around and went inside and the door swung shut behind him. And Ethan Walker stood in a gravel lot and understood that he had lost in a single day the only 3 things he owned: a place to sleep, the last picture of his mother, and the belief which he had somehow stupidly been carrying around since February like a coal in his pocket, that if he was just good enough long enough, somebody would eventually notice. Marla was crying. She had her hand over her mouth. I'm sorry, she said. Ethan, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I can't. It's okay. It's not okay, Russ. Marla. He heard himself say it very gently, and that was the strangest part. He was comforting her. It's okay. You got a kid. I know. It's okay. She sat down on the curb and put her face in her hands, and Calvin Reed walked over. He came right up, close, and he stood there for a second, and then he leaned down and he said, quiet, almost warm, almost kind, told you. Ethan didn't move. Nothing personal, Calvin said. You get that right, it's not personal. You just picked the wrong morning to be brave. He straightened up. He put his sunglasses down onto his nose. You know what the difference between you and me is, kid. I know what things are worth. That was $2,800 in your hand, and you gave it away for a feeling. He clapped Ethan on the shoulder. Hope it was worth it, he said, and walked to his car and drove off. Ethan stood there in the dark for a long time after the taillights were gone. Then he walked. He didn't know where. He walked until the streetlights ran out, and then he walked some more, and he ended up on a curb outside a shuttered tire shop about 2 miles down the county road. And he sat down on it, and he put his elbows on his knees, and he found that he was completely, perfectly empty. He wasn't crying. He'd have felt better if he was crying. He was just done. And that's when he thought a thought that scared him so badly that he stood up. It wasn't a plan. It wasn't even a whole sentence. It was just a small, quiet voice in the back of his head that said very reasonably, you know, it wouldn't actually be that hard. And Ethan Walker stood up and off that curb so fast he stumbled because he'd heard about that voice. He'd been in a room once with a kid who had heard that voice. And he knew that the way that voice gets you isn't by screaming. It's by being reasonable. He stood in the middle of the road with his heart hammering. No, he said out loud. No, okay, think of something. Think of one thing. You gotta think of one thing you have. He had nothing. He had the clothes on his body. He had a hole in his left heel. He had bruises on his forearm in the shape of a man's boot tread. He put his hands in his pockets, and his fingers touched a folded napkin. Ethan stood there in the middle of an empty county road at 11 o'clock at night and took it out and unfolded it and looked at 10 digits in blue ink. And he laughed one syllable, ugly, wet, and said out loud to nobody, he's not going to answer. He walked back a mile and a half to the payphone outside the closed feed store, and it took him 20 minutes to find a quarter, and he found it in a return slot at a vending machine, and it felt like the most humiliating thing that had ever happened to him. He put it in. His hand was shaking so hard he misdialed the first time. He hung up. He got the quarterback. He put it in again. He dialed. And the whole time it rang, Ethan Walker was saying it out loud over and over under his breath, like a man holding onto a rail in a storm. He's not going to answer. He's not going to answer. He's a nice guy. That's all he was. Nice. That's all it was. That's all it ever is. He's not going to. It rang 3 times. 4, 5. Ethan closed his eyes and felt something in his chest start to close like a hand. Okay, he whispered. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. The line clicked. And a voice he'd heard exactly once in his life, thick with sleep and completely awake at the same time, said Ethan. And Ethan Walker put his forehead against the cold steel of a payphone outside a feed store on a county road in Arizona at 11:41 at night with nothing left in the entire world and could not answer him. Ethan, sheets, movement, a lamp clicking on. Son, talk to me. Where are you? They took the picture, Ethan said, and then he couldn't say anything else at all. And then he couldn't say anything else at all. For maybe 15 seconds, there was just the sound of him trying to breathe into a payphone. Okay, Cole said. Okay, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to talk yet. I'm sorry, Ta. Don't. I'm sorry I shouldn't have. Ethan. The voice didn't get louder. It got closer somehow, like the man had leaned into it. Listen to me. You did the exact thing I asked you to do. You did it right. Now breathe with me. In, out, again. Ethan breathed. Again. He breathed. Where are you standing right now? Payphone? Where's the payphone? Outside the feed store on the county road, there's a tire place. It's like a mile past the tire place. Bratcher's feed. The one with the green roof. I don't know what color it is. It's dark. Something happened on the other end of the line that might have been a laugh. That's fair. Okay, I know where that is. Ethan, is anybody with you? No. Is anybody near you? There's nobody anywhere. His voice went up and he clamped it back down. It's a road, Jackson. There's nothing out here. There's no cars. There's nothing. It's just, he stopped. He pressed the heel of his hand into his eye socket. I don't know why I said that. Sorry. Quit apologizing. I can't. I know. There was a rustle, a drawer, keys. Tell me what happened, Cole said, and Ethan told him. He told it badly. It came out of order, and half of it didn't make sense. And twice he had to stop entirely, and Cole didn't interrupt not one time. And Ethan could hear him moving around a house in the background, a faucet, a door, boots, and somehow that was the thing that kept him going. The man was doing something. He wasn't sitting there making listening noises. He was putting his boots on. And he said the camera's been broke since June, Ethan finished. He said it in front of him. He said it right in front of him, and Calvin didn't even blink. And that's when I knew he already knew. He already knew. Yeah, so it's over, Ethan said. Right? That's it. That's the whole thing. There's no camera. There's no proof. There's 12 guys who will say I'm telling the truth, and every one of them is the exact wrong guy to say it. And I don't, Jackson. I don't have an address. You get that? I can't file anything. You got to have an address to file a thing. I looked it up once. Ethan. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being accurate. Ethan, stop. Take a breath. A pause. Now say the other thing. What other thing? The thing you called about. The line was quiet. You didn't call me about a camera, Cole said. You've had 8 months of nobody believing you. That's Tuesday for you. You didn't call me at midnight over Dale. Ethan's throat closed. They put it in the compactor, he said. Yeah, they put it in the compactor, Jackson. And now it was coming and there was nothing he could do about it. It was in a grocery bag. It was in a plastic grocery bag so it wouldn't get wet. And I put it in the backpack this morning like I do every morning. And I had it in my hand today. You handed it to me. You put it in my hand and closed my fingers on it. And I put it back in the bag because I thought the bag was the safe place. I know. And it's the only one. It's the only one there is. There's not another copy anywhere in the world. There's no negative. Nobody's got a phone with it on there. There's no file anywhere. It was just the one. It was one piece of paper and it existed and now it doesn't. And I don't. He stopped. I don't remember her face, he said. Silence on the line. I've been looking at it every day since I was 6, so I'd remember, Ethan said. And I just tried right now standing here. I just tried to see her, and I can't. I can't do it. It's already going. It's been 4 hours, and it's already... He couldn't finish. He heard 300 yards away, a sound that in 8 months on that road he had never once heard at midnight an engine. He didn't even look up. Jackson, he said. Jackson, I'm not okay. I know. No, his voice dropped. He'd never said it. He had never said it out loud to a living human being, not to a caseworker, not to a counselor, not to the woman with the clipboard who asked him every 6 months on a scale of 1 to 10. I had a thought tonight, on a curb, and it was a real one. The line went absolutely still. Where are you? Cole said. I told you by Monday. Say it again. Payphone, feed store, county road. You're going to stay right there. Jackson, Ethan Walker. And there it was, not the voice from the booth, not the one that had put him in his seat, but something else, entirely low and flat and very old. You are going to stand at that phone and you are not going to hang up. Do you hear me? I don't care if it runs out. If it runs out, you stand there anyway and you wait. Because I'm 40 minutes out and I am already in the driveway. You bum. I've been in the driveway since you said the word picture. Ethan turned around and looked at the empty road. You don't even know me, he said. Kid, you're the only person in the last 20 years who's handed me back something I lost. A truck door, an engine turning over. Now don't hang up. I don't have another quarter. Then when it cuts you off, you stay there anyway. Okay? Say it. I'll stay. Say the whole thing. I'll stay at the phone, Ethan said, and I won't go anywhere. Good. The line cut out at 11:58, and Ethan Walker stood at a dead payphone outside a feed store on an empty county road for 31 minutes with the receiver still against his ear because he'd said he would, and because there was a small, unbearable part of him that was absolutely certain that the second he put it down, none of it would have happened. He was still holding it when the headlights came. Cole didn't say anything when he got out. He didn't ask if Ethan was okay, which would have been a stupid question, and he didn't hug him, which Ethan would not have survived. He walked up and looked at the receiver in Ethan's hand and gently took it out of it and hung it on the hook. All right, he said. I said I'd stay. You did. I did the thing. You did the thing, Cole agreed. His jaw was tight. Get in the truck. Ethan didn't move. Ethan, I'm not... He gestured at himself at the road at nothing. I can't get in your truck. I don't have what happens tomorrow. What happens when you wake up and there's a homeless kid in your house and you got to figure out what to do with him. That's the part nobody thinks about. Everybody's real generous at midnight. Nobody's generous at 8 in the morning on a Tuesday. That's a hell of a thing to say to a man who drove 40 minutes. I'm not trying to be... I know what you're doing. Cole leaned back against the truck. You're doing it before I can. Ethan's mouth shut. You're going to leave first so it doesn't count, Cole said. You've done it your whole life. You did it to Marla this morning. I'd bet money on it. 3 seconds and you break eye contact and give them the smile so they don't have to feel bad about you. Am I wrong? Ethan didn't answer. You're 18 years old and you've got a whole system for protecting other people from how much you're hurting, Cole said. And I want you to know that I see it and I'm not going to let you run it on me. It's not a system. It's a hell of a system. It's not a system. It's just, Ethan's hands were shaking. It's just true. It's just what's true. Everybody leaves. Not because they're bad. That's the part everybody gets wrong. They are not bad, Jackson. They're nice. They're all so nice. They cry when they do it. Roy cried. The Hendersons cried. There was a lady in Casa Grande who bought me a bike, and she cried for like 20 minutes, and I still got in the van. He was shouting on a county road at midnight at a man he'd met that morning. So don't stand there and tell me it's a system, he said, when it's just math. Cole let that sit. Get in the truck, he said. Did you hear a word Everyone, get in the truck. Ethan stood there for about 5 more seconds. And then he got in the truck and he hated himself for it. And he sat with his back against the door and his arms crossed like a man expecting to be arrested. Cole drove about a quarter mile. Then he pulled over. What are you doing, talking? Cole put it in park. You said everybody leaves. You want to know why I don't want to hear a speech. Good, because you're not going to get one. Cole put both hands on the wheel. I had a brother. Ethan didn't say anything. Not club, blood, 2 years younger. Danny. Cole looked straight out the windshield. Our old man was a real piece of work, and I got out at 17 and Danny didn't, and I told him, call me. Anytime, day or night. I gave him a number. I said the exact words I said to you this morning, and I want you to know I meant everyone. Silence. He called me in November of '89, Cole said, and I didn't pick up. Ethan turned his head. Wasn't nothing dramatic, Cole said. I was at a bar. Phone rang. It was a payphone number I didn't know, and I was 22 and I was having a good time, and I figured whoever it was had called back. The cab was very quiet. He didn't call back, Cole said. Ethan opened his mouth. Nothing came. So no, Cole said. I'm not going to leave, and I'd love to tell you it's because I'm a good man. It ain't. It's because I've done it once, and I found out what it costs on my ass, and I am not paying that twice. He looked over. That good enough for you, or you want a better reason? No, Ethan said. That's a good one. Yeah, well, Cole put the truck back in drive. It's the only one I got. They drove for a while. I'm sorry about your brother, Ethan said. I'm sorry about your mom. Ethan looked out the window. I don't even know if she was nice, he said. That's the stupid part. Everybody thinks people think when you lose your mom, you lost like a person. I didn't lose a person. I lost a picture. I don't have one memory. Not one. I've got a porch step and a squint and a baby on her hip, and that's it. That's the whole woman, and now I don't even have that. He laughed wrecked. So what am I even sad about? I'm sad about paper. You're sad about proof, Cole said. Ethan stopped laughing. That's what it was, Cole said. It wasn't a picture. It was proof somebody had you once. And Ethan Walker put his hand over his mouth and turned his face to the window and cried for 11 minutes straight, silently the whole way into town. And Jackson Cole didn't say one single word about it, didn't touch him, didn't comfort him, didn't do anything at all except turn the radio on low so the boy could pretend he wasn't being heard, which was, Ethan understood later, the single kindest thing anyone had ever done for him. He woke up at 4 in the afternoon. That was the first thing that scared him. He came up out of sleep the way you come up out of water, and he didn't know where he was, and there was a ceiling, and he lay there for a full 10 seconds, not breathing, before he remembered. He was on a couch. There was a blanket on him that he had not pulled up. He sat up so fast his head swam. Hey! Cole was in a chair across the room with a cup of coffee and a phone in his hand. What time is it? 4. 4. Ethan was already standing. 4 in the I gotta go. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. You should have woke me up. Sit down. I've been asleep for 15 hours. You've been asleep for 16 and you needed 40. Sit down. Ethan sat down, his whole body hurt in a brand new way, the way it does when you finally stop. You put a blanket on me, he said. That a problem? I didn't wake up. Ethan's voice was strange. Somebody put a blanket on me and touched me, and I didn't wake up. Jackson, I always wake up. I've woken up for 8 months every single time. If a car door shuts a block away, He stopped. He pressed his palms into his eyes. I don't know why I'm telling you that. 'Cause it scared you. Yeah. Yeah. Cole nodded slowly. It'd scare me too. He set his phone down. Ethan, I've been making calls since 8 this morning. About what? Sit tight and listen without jumping out of your skin. That's not a great opener. No, it isn't. Cole leaned forward. Calvin Reed's real name is Calvin Reed. Great, amazing, thanks. Let me finish. His name's Calvin Reed, and I got a guy who ran him for me, and Ethan, you were right. You were right about all of it, and then some. He turned the phone around. Ethan didn't look at it. He was watching Cole's face. He's got 4 addresses in this county in 6 years, and he's got a pattern. What pattern? Same one every time. Wallet, phone, purse, always at a business. Always with a manager standing right there. Always somebody who can't push back, the guy with a warrant, a woman with no papers, a kid. Cole's jaw worked. Twice it was somebody living rough. So he's done it before. He's done it 11 times that I can find. Ethan sat very still. 11, he said, that I can find. Then why is he? Ethan's hands opened. Jackson, why is he walking it around 11 times? How do you do it 11 times and nobody? Because who'd he do it to? Ethan's mouth closed. Right, Cole said quietly. That's the answer. That's the whole answer. He's not smart, son. He's not some criminal genius. He just figured out real early that there's a whole category of people in this country you can do anything to, and there's no counter. Nobody's keeping the number. He's been running the same $40 con for 6 years because the people he runs it on can't file, can't afford a day off work, can't get believed, or don't exist on paper. He sat back. He picked you because you were the safest person in that parking lot. Ethan stared at the floor for a long moment. That's not the worst part, he said. No. He looked up. The worst part is, he was right. The room went quiet. He was right, Jackson. He said nobody's coming. And then he went and told one guy one, and by dinner I'd lost everything I had. He didn't even have to try. He didn't break a law, he just said a sentence and it worked. And it worked because he was right about me and Ethan's voice went, and that's the part I've been lying here going, okay, at least I know I'm a good person, at least I've got that. That's the one thing I got out of it. And then you go, he's done it 11 times. And I'm sitting here doing the math. What math? There's 10 other people, Ethan said. 10 other people who got their whole life taken by a guy in a polo shirt. And what happened to them? Where are they? Because I bet none of them had a Jackson Cole. I bet not one of them had a napkin in their pocket. He was shaking. So it's not that I'm good, it's that I got lucky. And that's so much worse. Cole looked at him for a long time. Kid, he said, you're going to be a problem for people. What? Nothing. Cole stood up. Come on. Where the shop, there's some folks want to look at you. That's a terrifying sentence. Yeah, Cole said, put your shoes on. There were 9 of them in the back of that repair shop, and Ethan walked in and immediately wanted to be dead. They stopped talking when he came in, all of them, at once. And every eye in that room went to him, and he did the thing he always did. He pulled the smile out and put it on, and Tank saw it happen from across the room, and Ethan watched the man's face just flatten. Nope, Tank said. What? Don't do that. Do what? That. Tank pointed at his own face. That thing you just did. We already talked about it. You talked about me. For 2 hours, said a woman by the workbench. 60 silver braid forearms like a longshoreman. You want a coffee? I want coffee. It's a yes or a no. Yes. See, that wasn't hard. She poured him one. I'm Deb. That's Tank, that's Wheeler. That's Curtis. That's the other Curtis. Don't worry about it. Sit. He sat. Okay, Cole said. Here's where we are. Ethan, you tell him what you told me last night, the parking lot part. Why? Because I want you to hear yourself say it in a room. So Ethan told it. And this time it came out clean in order, and about 90 seconds in, he realized his hands had stopped shaking. And about 2 minutes in, he realized nobody in the room had moved. And about 3 minutes in, when he got to the part about the compactor, the man called Wheeler stood up and walked out of the room and shut the door behind him a little harder than he needed to. Ethan stopped. Keep going, Deb said. Is he? He's got a daughter. Keep going. Ethan kept going. When he finished, nobody said anything for a while. Well, Deb said, that's a bad man. That's a bad man, Tank agreed. So what do we do about it? Ethan said. And every head in that shop turned to look at him. I saw some. What? Ethan said. Nothing. Cole said. Say it again. Say what again? You said we, mom. Ethan opened his mouth, and it hit him right there sitting on an upturned bucket in a repair shop with a coffee he didn't ask for, that he had said we, and he had not even noticed himself do it, and he had not used that word about himself and another human being since he was 14 years old. He looked at the floor. I didn't mean. Yeah, you did, Deb said. Drink your coffee. Okay, here's the problem, Tank said, dragging a stool over. The camera. That's the whole thing. No camera. It's your word against his, and no offense, kid, but none taken. I know what I look like. And we can't be the ones who say it, because the second we walk into a room where the story, cops don't hear witness, they hear club. So it's over, Ethan said. Did I say it was over? You said? I said the camera's the problem. Tank grinned. It was not a nice grin. Kid, what's across the street from that gas station? Ethan blinked. Nothing, he said. It's a road. What's on the other side of the road? He stopped. There's a self-storage place. There's a self-storage place, Tank said. And what does a self-storage place have all the way around it in every direction, 24 hours a day, because their entire business model is people leaving valuables in a shed? Ethan sat up so fast he spilled his coffee. They're pointed the wrong way, he said. They'd be pointed at the storage. The gate cam ain't it? Tank pulled out a phone. The gate cam faces the road. You gotta see the plate of whoever's coming in. That's a road that's not Ethan. Cole cut in. What did Calvin do after he left the lot Saturday morning? He drove off. Which way? Ethan's mouth went dry. Past the storage place, he said. At what time? Like 7:40 of the. And what did he do at 4 in the afternoon? He came back. Ethan was on his feet. He came back and he went into the store and he talked to Dale and he had to, same road. Same road. So what does that give us? Deb said. Ethan stood there in the middle of that shop with his heart going like a hammer. It gives you a guy, he said slowly, who says he was robbed at 7 a.m. and then went and lived his whole day and came back at 4 o'clock to report it, 9 hours later. There it is. Nobody does that. Ethan's voice was climbing. Nobody gets their tuition money stolen and then goes. And what did he do for 9 hours? Where'd he go? He didn't call the cops. He didn't call at 7. He didn't call at 8. He waited until 4 o'clock, and then he didn't call the cops, then either. He went and told a manager, why would you? He stopped dead. Oh, he said. Say it, Cole said. He didn't want a police report. Ethan's hands went to his head. He never wanted a police report. If there's a report, there's a detective, and if there's a detective, somebody pulls a camera somewhere, and he didn't want me arrested. He never wanted me arrested. He just wanted me gone. The room was silent. He wanted me gone, Ethan repeated, because I'm the only person in 6 years who looked at his license and read the name. Deb set her cup down. Jackson, she said. This kid's a problem for people. That's what I said. I'm serious. Look at him. I know. No, look at him. Deb pointed her thumb. 18. Nobody ever taught him a thing. He got to that in 4 minutes. I've known men 50 years old who couldn't get to that in 4 days. Ethan was still standing there with his hands on his head. Wait, he said. What? There's a problem. What problem? Storage places don't keep footage forever. He turned around. How long do they keep it? Nobody answered. How long, Ethan said. Depends on the place, Tank said carefully. Some of them 30 days, some of them 7. 7? Some of them. Which one is it? I don't know. Which one is it, Tank? I don't know, kid, that's what I'm telling you. Then somebody's got to go ask, Ethan was shouting. Right now, today, because if it's 7, then we've got what's today. What's today? It's Sunday, Deb said quietly. It's Sunday. Ethan's voice cracked. It happened Saturday, yesterday. So we've got 6 days minimum. That's okay. That's okay. That's fine. That's not nothing. Ethan. And if it's 30, then we're totally Ethan. He stopped. Cole was looking at him with an expression Ethan couldn't read at all. They're closed Sundays, Cole said. It's a family operation. Nobody's there till 9 tomorrow. So we go tomorrow. Yeah. Okay. Ethan sat down. He was breathing hard. Okay, tomorrow. That's fine. That's 1 day. 1 day's fine. Nobody said anything. What? Ethan said. Nothing, Cole said. No what? Everybody's doing the face. Nobody's doing a face. Deb's doing a face. Kid, Deb said. It ain't the footage. What? The footage is a Monday problem. You'll get the footage or you won't. She pulled a stool over and sat down in front of him, knees almost touching his. I want to ask you something else. Okay, say it works. Say Tank goes over there Monday and some kid at a desk hands us a hard drive and it's all right there, plain as day. Calvin driving off at 7:40 like nothing happened. Calvin rolling back in at 4 like a man going to a movie. Say we take it to somebody and they look at it and they go, huh? Okay. What do you get? Ethan opened his mouth, closed it. You get to be right, Deb said. That's it. That's the whole prize. You don't get your bag back. That went in a compactor at 4 o'clock and it ain't coming out. You don't get your picture. You don't get 8 months back. You don't get February back. Her voice didn't change at all. You get to be right about a thing that everybody already knows. Ethan was staring at her. So I want to know, Deb said, what you want. I want careful. He stopped. He sat there on a bucket in the back of a motorcycle repair shop, and 9 people watched him. And he genuinely, honestly did not have an answer. And the silence went on so long that it got embarrassing. And then it went past embarrassing and turned into something else. I don't know, he said finally. That's the first true thing you've said since you walked in, Deb said. That's not fair. It's completely fair. You've been performing since you got here. I have not. You've been sitting there going, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, I'm fine, sorry, 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 and doing the smile, and you're going to keep doing it till somebody tells you to knock it off. So I'm telling you, knock it off. She leaned in. You want to know what I want to hear you say? I want to hear you say you're angry. I'm not angry. Bull. I'm not. You're 18 years old. You were thrown away twice, once by the state and once by a man in a polo shirt. You're 100 pounds. You haven't got a photograph of your own mother, and a guy stepped on your arm and won. Deb's voice never rose. And you're telling me you're not angry. If I get angry, I'm done. It ripped out of him. The whole shop went dead silent. If I get angry, I'm done. Ethan was on his feet and he didn't remember standing. Do you know what happens to a kid like me who gets angry? I do. I watched it. I watched Cody Reyes get angry when he was 15, and he's in Florence right now, doing 11 years, and he was a good kid. He was a good kid, Deb. He was the best one in that house, and he got angry one time in front of the wrong person, and that was it. That was his whole life done over 11 years. He was crying and he didn't notice. So I don't get to be angry. That's the deal. Everybody else gets to be angry. Everybody else gets to yell at a manager and slam a door. And it's a bad day. And if I do it, it's who I am. If I do it, it's proof. It's proof of everything they already think. So I smile. So I say sorry. So I say I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine, because it is the only thing standing between me and being exactly what that man in the parking lot said I was. And it has worked. It has worked for 18 years. It kept me alive. He stopped. His chest was heaving. And it didn't work yesterday, he said. Nobody moved. I did everything right, Ethan said. His voice had gone very small. I did everything right. I gave it back. I told the truth. I was polite. I was so polite. And it took him one sentence. He sat back down. So what am I supposed to do with that? He said. Somebody tell me. What am I supposed to do with that? Because I've had the same rules since I was 6 years old, and it's the only thing I've ever had. And yesterday, it just didn't work, and I don't have another rule. There's no second rule. That's it. That's all I got. The shop was completely silent. Deb reached over and took his hand. He flinched hard, and she didn't let go. Honey, she said, it worked. It didn't. You're sitting in this room. Ethan looked up. You gave it back, Deb said. And you're sitting in this room. There's 9 people in here, and every single one of us knows your name. And it's Monday morning at 9 o'clock that Tank's driving to that storage place, and he's not doing it for a wallet. Her hand tightened. It worked, kid. It just didn't work fast. And you've never in your life been able to afford slow. Ethan's face came apart. And Jackson Cole, who hadn't said a word in 10 minutes, put his coffee down and said, Ethan, there's one more thing. Ethan wiped his face with his wrist. What? I wasn't going to tell you today. Jackson, you've had a rough 48. Jackson. Cole looked at Tank. Tank looked at the floor. That call I got this morning, Cole said, it wasn't about Calvin Reed's record. Ethan went cold. Then what was it about? Oh, ma'am. Cole reached into his vest and took out a folded piece of paper and held it in both hands for a second without giving it to him. Dale fired Marla last night, he said, 10 minutes after you walked off. Ethan stopped breathing. For talking to you, Tarnas, Cole said. That's the reason. She said your name in front of a customer. No. Ethan. No. He was up again. No, she has a kid, Jackson. She's got a kid. That's why she stepped back. That's why she stepped back. She stepped back so she'd keep her. His voice broke apart entirely. She stepped back and he fired her anyway. Yeah. Then what was it for? Nobody answered him. What was it for? Ethan was screaming. She sold me out for nothing. He took her job anyway, so she did the worst thing she's ever done in her life. She did it in front of me. I saw her face and she doesn't even get the... He stopped. He stood there in the middle of that shop with his fists open at his sides. And something in his eyes changed, and every man in that room saw it happen. And Deb sat back very slowly. Where is she? Ethan said. Ethan, where is she? She's at home, Cole said. She's fine. She's not fine. She's got a kid and no job, and she's sitting in a house right now thinking she did all that for nothing. Ethan's voice had gone somewhere new. It was flat. It was completely level. It was, Cole would say much later, the first time he ever heard the man Ethan Walker was going to become. Give me the paper. What? The paper in your hand. You've been holding it for 2 minutes. Give it to me. Cole handed it over. Ethan unfolded it. He read it once. His hands started to shake, and then they stopped, and he read it again. Jackson, he said, where did you get this? Ethan, where did you get this? Where did you get this? Cole didn't answer right away. Jackson. A guy owed me a favor. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Ethan looked back down at the paper. His hands weren't shaking anymore, and that was somehow worse. He read the second line for the third time out loud slowly, like maybe saying it would make it mean something different. Employer of record, Rocking R Self-Storage, 2241 County Road 11. He looked up. Jackson, that's across the street. Yeah, that's across the street from the WOW station. I know. He works there. He worked there, Cole said, 2 years on and off. His cousin runs the place. Guy named Roy Dean Reed. Ethan started to laugh. It wasn't a good laugh. It came out of him in pieces, and Deb reached for his shoulder, and he stepped back out of range, still laughing, and turned in a slow circle in the middle of that shop with the paper hanging off his fingers. Okay, he said. Okay, that's okay. Ethan. No, that's funny, Jackson. You don't get how funny that is. He held the paper up. Tank's driving over there tomorrow at 9, right 9 in the morning. He's going to walk in and ask a nice man behind a desk for the gate footage from Saturday. And the nice man behind the desk is going to smile and say, sure thing, let me go check the system. Nobody said anything. And that man, Ethan said, is his cousin. Tank put his hand over his mouth. How long's it been since Saturday? Ethan asked. Kid, how long? 34 hours, Deb said quietly. 34 hours. Ethan folded the paper in half. He did it very carefully, lining up the corners like it mattered. It's gone. It's been gone since Saturday afternoon. He didn't even have to hurry. He walked out of that lot. He drove 400 feet, and he asked his cousin to clear a hard drive, and then he went and had lunch somewhere, and then at 4 o'clock he strolled into that store like a man buying a lottery ticket. He set the paper on the workbench. That's not a scam, he said. That's not, you keep calling it a con. That's not a con. A con's when you trick somebody. He didn't trick anybody. He built something, 6 years, 4 addresses, a cousin with a camera, a manager who was scared of his own insurance. He built a room and he's been walking people into it and closing the door. Ethan, Cole's voice was careful, sit down. I don't want to sit down. I've been asleep for 16 hours, Jackson. I'm the most rested I've been since February. I don't need to sit down. He looked around the shop. 9 faces, nobody moving. Where's Marla live? No. Where does she live? Ethan, listen to me. Deb. He turned. Deb, you have known her longer. Where's she live? Deb's mouth flattened. She looked at Cole. Cole shook his head half an inch. See, that's okay. Ethan nodded. He was still nodding a second later, which was when everyone in the room understood that something had come loose. That's fine. That's fine. It's a small town, right? How many Marlos are there? 2. I'll walk. I've walked further. Sit down. Why? It cracked out of him. Why, he said again. Give me one reason. 1, you want me to sit on a bucket and drink coffee while there's a woman 4 miles from here who's sitting in a kitchen right now doing the exact thing I've been doing my whole life. You know what she's doing? I know what she's doing. She's going over it. She's replaying it. She's going, why'd I step back? Why'd I step back? And every time she gets to the end of it, she starts it again from the beginning. And she's going to do that all night and then all week, and then for the rest of her life for nothing because he fired her anyway. His voice went, and there's not one person on this earth who's going to go tell her it's okay, he said. Nobody. Not Dale, not Calvin. Her kid can't. Who's going to do it? Who's going to knock on that door? The room was quiet. So I'm going to do it, Ethan said. That's it. That's the whole plan. That's all I'm going to do. You're not going to ask her for anything, Cole said. What? That's what I'm sitting here trying to decide. Cole stood up. Whether you're going over there to make her feel better, or whether you figured out 10 seconds ago that a woman who runs a register might know something about that store, and you're dressing it up as kindness. Ethan went white. His voice cracked. That's the ugliest thing anybody's ever said to me. Yeah, that's genuinely the ugliest. Is it true? No. You sure? I don't know, Ethan shouted. I don't know, Jackson. Okay, maybe some part of me is doing that. I don't know how to check. I've been surviving for 8 months. Everything I do has 4 reasons. That's how you stay alive. You think I know which one's on top. You think anybody knows that? Cole didn't move. But I know what happens if I don't go, Ethan said. I know that part. She sits in that kitchen and she learns the same thing I learned. That's what's happening right now. Right now, tonight, she's learning that it doesn't matter, that being decent is a tax you pay and there's no refund. And once you learn that, you don't unlearn it. Jackson, nobody unlearns it. I've met the people who learned it. He stopped. I met one yesterday in a parking lot, he said, in a polo shirt. Nobody breathed. Cole reached into his pocket and took out his keys and tossed them. Ethan caught them without thinking. 1204 Ellsworth, Cole said. Little greenhouse, blue door. Tank goes with you and Tank sits in the truck. Tank sits in the truck, Cole said, because it's dark and you're 18 and a woman who just lost her job doesn't need 2 of you on her porch. He'll be 40 feet away. That's not negotiable and I'm not arguing about it. Ethan looked at the keys. I don't know how to drive, he said. The whole room exhaled at once and somebody actually laughed and Tank took the keys out of his hand. Course you don't, Tank said. Come on. She opened the door about 4 inches with the chain on. Marla. The door didn't move. Marla, I know who it is. Can I? No, he stood there. You shouldn't be here, she said through the gap. You really, really shouldn't be here. I'm not staying. Is that a truck? Her voice climbed. Ethan, is that one of them in my driveway? That's Tank. He's not going to get out. He's just, oh my God. Marla, do you know what this looks like? The chain rattled. Do you have any idea what it looks like at 9 o'clock at night in this neighborhood with a truck like that in my... She stopped. He heard her breathing. You need to go. Okay. I mean it. Okay, I'm going. He didn't move. Marla, I only came to say one thing, and then I'll go and I'll never come back here, I swear to God. Ethan, it's not your fault. Silence. That's it, he said. That's the whole thing. I'm not here to ask you for anything. I don't want anything. There's nothing I want. I saw your face in the lot when he said the thing about your job. I saw your face and you stepped back and I know exactly what that cost you. And I've been thinking about it for 26 hours and I couldn't. His voice betrayed him. You've got a kid, he said. You did the right thing. You did the only thing. And I need you to know that I'm not mad and I never was not for 1 second. And if you'd done anything else, I'd have been furious at you. That's it. That's all. Okay, I'm going. He turned around. The chain came off. He stopped on the second step. Get in here, Marla said. You said get into the house. Her kitchen smelled like cigarettes and burnt coffee, and she made him sit down at a table with a wobble in it, and she stood with her back against the counter and her arms folded, and she didn't say anything for about 30 seconds. Then she said, You're not mad. No. Say it again. I'm not mad at you. Say it looking at me. He looked at her. I'm not mad at you, Ethan said. And Marla Bowen, who had worked the early shift at Sunrise Fuel and Go for 11 years, who had raised a 9-year-old boy by herself in a house with a wobbly table, who had not cried in front of another adult since her mother's funeral, put her hand flat over her mouth and slid down the front of her own cabinets and sat on the linoleum. Marla, don't. Her voice was destroyed. Don't come over here. Okay. I've been sitting here since 10 o'clock last night. She wasn't looking at him. 11 years. 11 years I gave that man, and I stepped back off a curb for him, and he called me at 10 o'clock at night. Not even to my face on the phone. He said, "This isn't working out." I know. 11 years. I know. And you know what I keep? She laughed horribly. You know what I keep going back to? Not even that. It's that you said it was okay. You stood there in that lot and you looked at me and you said, "It's okay, Marla. You got a kid." And I thought, oh, thank God, right? Thank God he understands. And then I got in my car, and about a mile down the road, it hit me what I'd actually done. And I pulled over and I sat on the shoulder for 45 minutes. Marla, you comforted me. She looked up at him. Her face was a wreck. You were the one on the ground and you comforted me. Do you know how that feels, to be let off the hook by a child who lost everything he owned? Ethan didn't have anything for that. "Where'd you sleep last night?" she said. "Jackson's couch." And the night before, he didn't answer. "Right," she said. She got up off the floor. She got a glass out of the cabinet and filled it at the tap and set it in front of him and sat down across the table, and she wiped her face with the heel of her hand and lit a cigarette and blew the smoke sideways away from him, which was a small thing he noticed and would remember for the rest of his life. "Ask me," she said. "Ask you whatever you came here to ask me." "I didn't come here to—" "Kid, I know." She tapped Ash. "That's why I'm telling you to ask." He opened his mouth. "I didn't," he said. "That's the honest Marla. I swear to God I sat in that truck the whole way over here trying to figure out if I was lying to myself, and I still don't know. But I didn't come here to ask you a question. I came here because you're the only person in 8 months who asked me a second question." Marla stared at him. "The what?" "When we were talking about the landscaping job, you said, 'How are they going to call you? You don't have a phone.'" He shrugged. "Nobody ever asked the second question. Everybody asked the first one. You asked the second one." Marla put her cigarette down in the ashtray. She left it there, and she didn't pick it back up, and it burned all the way down to the filter while she talked. "There's 2 cameras," she said. Ethan's head came up. "What?" "There's 2 cameras in that store." She was looking at the table. "Dale's got the one on the ceiling behind the register. That's the one everybody knows about. That's the one that's been broke since June. He won't fix it. It's $400 and he won't do it. And every time somebody says something, he says he's working on it." "Marla?" "But there's the other one." Ethan's whole body went still. "It's not his," she said. "That's the thing. It's not Dale's camera. It came with the insurance. 5-6 years ago, the rates went up and the company said, 'You put a system in and we'll knock 12% off.' And they sent a guy out and he mounted it up in the corner over the coolers, and it points out the window. Out the window. Out the front window. Across the lot. It's for the pumps." She looked up. "It's for drive-offs, honey. Gas theft. That's the whole reason it exists. It watches the pumps and the lot." Ethan couldn't speak. "Dale hates it," Marla said. "He hates it. It's not his. He can't turn it off. It's on their box, and it goes out over the internet to some company in Texas. And once a year, they send him a bill. He forgets it's there. I swear to you, Ethan, I've heard that man say my cameras broke to 4 different people in 4 months, and he has never once, not one time, remembered that thing over the coolers." "Because it's not his," Ethan whispered. "Because it's not his. Because it's not his." Ethan was on his feet. Marla. Calvin's been running that lot for 2 years. He knows the ceiling cameras broke because everybody in town knows Dale complains about it. He complains about it to customers, but the insurance one, he don't know," Marla said. "There's no way he knows. There's no reason he'd know. It's a black box the size of a pack of smokes, and it's up above the light fixture in the corner, and I've worked under it for 6 years, and I forget it's there." Ethan put both hands on the table because he thought he might go down. "How long do they keep it?" "I don't know." "Marla, I don't know, honey. It's not mine either. I've seen the bill. It comes in a green envelope. It's a company called Sentinel something, Sentinel Watch, Sentinel Guard. Can you get it?" And there it was. The question sat on that wobbly table between them, and Marla looked at it, and Ethan heard what he'd said about 1 second after he said it, and his whole face fell apart. I'm sorry I didn't. Ethan. I told you I didn't come here for that. I told you, Ethan. She reached across and grabbed his wrist. Sit down, shut up, and listen to me. He sat. I got fired last night, Marla said. So no, I can't get it. I can't walk in there. I can't touch that computer. And if I try, Dale calls the sheriff, and this time he's got a reason. That's the truth, and I'm not going to dress it up. Ethan's eyes closed. But, she said, he opened them. That's systems, not Dale's, Marla said. So it's not Dale's to hand over, and it's not Dale's to refuse either. What? It's the insurance companies. It's their box, their bill, their storage. She let go of his wrist and sat back. So they don't answer to Dale. They answer to whoever's got a claim. Ethan stared at her. Marla, he said slowly. Oh, well, I slowly. Nobody made a claim. No. Nobody reported anything. That's the whole thing, Marla. That's the entire trick. Calvin never called the cops. There's no report. There's no case. There's no claim. There's nothing. He stopped. He sat there in a kitchen in a greenhouse on Ellsworth with his mouth half open. Oh, he said. There it is, Marla said. There's no report, Ethan said, because the only person who can make one is the fellow whose money it was. Ethan was out of that chair and across that kitchen and had the door open before he even knew he'd stood up, and he stopped in the doorway and turned around, and Marla was still sitting at the table with her arms folded and something on her face that was almost a smile. Marla, I gotta go, so I'm gonna, his voice broke, I'm gonna fix it. I don't know how, I'm gonna fix your kid. She picked her cigarette back up. It was ash all the way down. She looked at it and dropped it. Just go be right about something. Somebody in this county ought to get to be right about something. And he ran to the truck. They were still all there when he came through the door at 10:40 at night, 9 of them, and Deb was asleep in a chair and Tank was 3 steps behind him, saying, hang on, tell it slow. And Ethan didn't tell it slow. He told it in about 90 seconds, standing up. And by the end of it, Wheeler had both hands on top of his head, and Deb was awake, and Curtis had said no out loud 4 separate times. Cole didn't move at all. That's what Ethan noticed. Everybody else came off the walls, and Jackson Cole sat in that chair with his coffee going cold and his eyes somewhere on the floor, and he didn't say a word for a long time. Jackson, Ethan said, I heard you. Did you hear the last part? I heard you, son. It's your money. Ethan came around in front of him. It was your money in that wallet. Calvin Reed stood in a parking lot and told 12 witnesses that a theft happened. He said it out loud. He said it to Dale. He said it to me. He's been telling people for 2 days that $2,800 got stolen off him at 7 in the morning at that store. Yeah, but it wasn't his money. It was yours. So there's exactly one man on this earth who can walk into a room and say, that theft never happened. I'm the guy it happened to, and I want the footage. And Jackson, it's me. It's you. Cole nodded slowly. Okay, Ethan said. So we go, right? Tomorrow, it's Monday. Tomorrow we go. First thing, you make the report. You say no theft occurred. You say I've got a party making a false statement about my property, and they've got to pull it. They can't not pull it. There's a box in a corner in Texas with the whole thing on it. Ethan. And the time, Jackson, that's the part. It's not even about me. It's the time that cameras pointed at the lot. It saw him at 7:40. It saw him come back at 4. It saw him step on my... Ethan, stop. Why? Cole looked up. Because you're asking me to walk into a police station, he said. The whole shop went silent. And Ethan understood all at once the way you understand a thing you should have seen an hour ago, exactly what he had spent the last 90 seconds asking a man to do. Oh, he said, yeah. Oh God, Jackson, I know you didn't. Cole set his coffee down. You're 18 and you're smart and you got there in 4 minutes. It just didn't occur to you what's on my back. Tank had turned away. Wheeler was looking at the ceiling. Say it out loud, Cole said. Go on, you know it. Say what happens. Ethan's mouth was dry. You walk in, he said, wearing that. Uh-huh. And you're not a guy filing a report. No, Ethan swallowed. You're a Hell's Angel filing a report about a homeless kid and $2,800 in cash you pulled out of a credit union at 4:30 in the morning. There it is. They're going to ask why you had it in cash. They're going to ask a lot of things. They're going to ask about the Jackson. It's tuition money. It's your sister's kid. They're not going to hear that. They're going to hear cash. They're going to hear 4:30 a.m. They're going to hear Kingman. They're going to hear all of it, Cole said. And then they're going to go get somebody who's been waiting 9 years for me to sit down in a chair with a reason. The room didn't make a sound. That's why, Cole said quietly, that's why I told you in that diner, it's not us that says it. That's not modesty, kid. That's arithmetic. The second we walk in a room, we stop being witnesses and start being the subject, and everything else on the table gets pushed off it. Ethan sat down on the bucket. So we don't do it, he said. Ethan. No, we don't do it. He put his hands over his face. That's okay. That's fine. We don't. I'm not Jackson. I am not going to be the reason you... Ethan, do you understand what I've been doing for 2 days? His voice came out of his hands muffled and shredded. I've been sitting here going, finally, somebody came. And the whole time I've been standing here asking you to burn your life down so I can be right about a parking lot. That's the same thing. That's the exact same thing Calvin does. You find the guy who can't say no and you, kid, look at me. You use him, Ethan. He took his hands off his face. Jackson Cole was standing up. I already went, he said. Ethan didn't understand the words. What? 9 o'clock this morning, Cole said. Oh, while you were asleep on my couch. The floor went out from under the room. Yeah, you bought. Ethan's voice failed. You what? Sat in a chair for 4 hours, Cole said. Sheriff's substation on Grand filed a written statement that on Saturday morning a party named Calvin Reed made a false representation of ownership regarding my property and physically assaulted a minor. I'm not a minor. You look like one, and I was mad. Cole almost smiled. Filed it, signed it, answered every question they asked me and Ethan. They asked me every question. And about hour 2, a fella came down from Phoenix, who I have met before, and he sat across from me, and he was very interested in a credit union in Kingman. Ethan couldn't breathe. That call I got this morning, Cole said, the one I told you was about Reed's record. It wasn't. It came in at 11:40 while I was still in that building. It was Deb telling me they let Marla go. Deb had her hand over her eyes. You went before you knew about the camera, Ethan said. Yeah. You went before you knew there was one. Yeah. You went when there was nothing. Ethan was standing. He didn't remember standing. You sat in a chair for 4 hours with a man from Phoenix asking you about cash. And there was no camera. There was no footage. There was no Chance Jackson. There was no version where it worked. There wasn't. Then why did you go? And Jackson Cole looked at an 18-year-old boy standing in the back of a motorcycle repair shop at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night and said the thing that Ethan Walker would carry with him unchanged, undiluted, for the rest of his natural life. So there'd be a piece of paper somewhere in this county, he said, with your name on it, where somebody had written down that you told the truth. Ethan Walker made a sound like he'd been hit. That's it, Cole said. That's all I was going for. I didn't think we'd win. I thought they'd file it in a drawer and forget it, and in 20 years some clerk throw it out. But it'd be written down. You said last night you don't have proof anybody ever had you. He shrugged and his voice went somewhere strange. So I went and made some. The shop was completely, absolutely silent. Ethan turned around. He put his hands on the workbench. He stood there with his shoulders going. You didn't tell me, he said. No. You let me sit there and yell at you. Yeah. Why, because you were about to figure out something on by your own, Cole said, and you needed to figure it out on your own. And if I'd told you at 4 PM that I'd already gone, you'd have spent the rest of your life thinking somebody handed it to you. Ethan's head dropped. Now say the rest, Cole said. What? You know the rest. Say it. Ethan turned around slowly. There's a report, he said. There's a report. There's an open report. It was building. He could feel it building. There's a signed statement from the property owner saying a theft was falsely reported. Filed at 9:40 this morning, case number and everything. Which means there's a claim. Which means there's a claim. which means somebody with a badge can call a company in Texas. Now you got it. Ethan put both hands on top of his head and turned in a circle. Jackson, he said, Jackson, Jackson, we can get it. We can ask for it. They keep 90 days. It burst out of him. Marla said the bill's yearly. That means it's a real contract. That means it's a real company. Real companies keep 90 days. Slow down. And it's Sunday, and it happened Saturday. It's been 36 hours, Jackson. It's sitting there right now. Ethan. It's sitting on a server in Texas right this second, and Calvin Reed is asleep in a bed somewhere, and he doesn't know it exists. He stopped. His eyes were enormous. He doesn't know it exists, he said again quietly. No, Cole said, he doesn't. And for the first time in 8 months, for the first time since a woman with a clipboard handed him a folder with a pie chart in it and wished him luck. Ethan Walker felt something move in his chest that he had genuinely believed was gone. It wasn't happiness. It was worse. It was more dangerous than that. It was hope, and it came up in him like water in a well, and he stood in that shop and was terrified of it. Jackson, he said, if this doesn't work, don't. No, listen, if this doesn't work, I don't think I can. I know. Cole put a hand on the back of his neck. It was the first time the man had touched him. I know, son. That's why nobody's going home tonight. They called at 9:02 Monday morning. Sentinel Site Systems, Lubbock, Texas. The woman on the line was named Priya, and she was very polite and very sorry, and explained that footage request from a third party required a subpoena or a written request from the account holder, and Ethan, listening on speaker, felt his whole chest cave in. And then Cole said 7 words. Ma'am, there's an open sheriff's case number. There was a pause on the line about 2 seconds long. Oh, Priya said, her whole voice changed. Oh, well, sir, why didn't you say so? That's a completely different department. Do you have the number in front of you? Deb had to sit down. At 11:15, a deputy named Ochoa called the shop, and he was skeptical, and he was tired, and he asked Cole 4 questions in a row that were really the same question, and then he asked to speak to Ethan. Ethan took the phone with hands so unsteady he nearly dropped it. Son, I'm going to ask you one thing, Ochoa said, and I want you to think before you answer because your answer's the whole ballgame. Okay. You had $2,800 in your hand in an empty parking lot with nobody watching. Why'd you give it back? And Ethan Walker, who had rehearsed 100 answers in his head over 2 days, every one of them careful, every one of them polite, every one of them designed to make a stranger comfortable, opened his mouth and heard himself say, because there was a picture in it, a picture of him and his friends from a long time ago. Ethan's voice was steady. I didn't have one, that's it. That's the whole reason. I stood there and I was going to take it, sir. I want to be honest with you. I was going to take it. I had it in my hands and I'd already decided. And then I saw 8 guys laughing in a photograph and I thought, I've never been in a picture with anybody. And I couldn't do it. The line was quiet a long time. Okay, Deputy Ochoa said. At 2:40 that afternoon, the phone rang again. Cole picked it up, listened, said, twice. Then he set the phone down on the workbench very slowly and put both hands flat on either side of it and didn't say anything. And Deb said, Jackson, and he didn't answer, and Tank said, Jackson what? 90 days, Cole said. Nobody moved. They pulled it 40 minutes ago, Cole said. It's all there, 7:06 a.m. to 7:51, the lot, the bikes, the whole thing. Ethan couldn't hear anything. There was a roaring. You can see it, Cole said. Ochoa says you can see all of it. You handing me the wallet, him grabbing your arm, him putting his foot on you. Wheeler sat down on the floor. And, Deb said, Jackson, and Cole looked up, and there was something on his father's face that nobody in that shop had ever seen before. 3:58 in the afternoon, he said. Same camera. Points at the lot. What? Ethan whispered. Calvin Reed pulls in, Cole said, and there's a fella in the passenger seat, and they sit in that car for 6 minutes before Reed gets out. Who? Deb said. Jackson. Who? Ochoa ran the plate on the passenger's truck, Cole said. It's parked in the back of the lot. It's been parked there since 3:50. He looked at Ethan. Roy Dean Reed, he said, the cousin, from the storage place. And Ethan Walker standing in the back of a motorcycle repair shop on a Monday afternoon in September, Understood at last that he had never been the target at all, that he had walked into a parking lot at 6:32 in the morning and stepped into the middle of something 6 years old and 400 feet wide, and that the two men in that car had spent 6 minutes deciding what to do about a boy who could read. 6 minutes. That was the number Ethan couldn't get past. Not the 11 victims, not the 6 years. 6 minutes, two men in a car deciding. Say it again, he said. Ethan, say the part again about the 6 minutes. They sat in the car, Cole said, 3:58 to 4:04. Then Reed gets out and goes in the store. And the cousin, stays. He stays. Ethan started to laugh and had to put a hand on the bench. He stays. He's sitting in that car the whole time Dale's telling me my stuff's in the compactor. He's 40 feet away. He's watching it. Yeah. Why? Nobody answered. No, that's a real question. Ethan turned around. Why does a man drive over to watch a manager fire a homeless kid? What's he there for? To make sure it took, Deb said quietly. The shop went still. He wasn't watching you, she said. He was watching Dale, making sure Dale did it. That's a man supervising. Ethan sat down hard on the bucket. Deb, he said. Deb, that means. I know what it means, honey. That means it's not Calvin. His voice had gone strange. That's what I couldn't figure out. That's what's been bothering me since last night, and I couldn't Jackson, a guy who runs the same $40 con 11 times in 6 years and never gets caught, isn't lucky. He's supervised. Cole didn't say anything. The cousin's got the cameras, Ethan said. The cousin's got the storage lot. Calvin's got the smile. Calvin walks up to people, and Roy Dean makes the tape go away. He looked up. Which one of them do you think picks Ethan? Which one picks Jackson? I don't know. Yes, you do. I don't know, son, and neither do you, and that's Ochoa's job, not yours. He watched me get thrown away, Ethan said. And then he drove home. The phone rang at 4:11. 9 people flinched. Cole picked it up, said his name and listened for a long time, and Ethan watched his face and could not read one single thing on it, and that was the worst 90 seconds of the entire week. Uh-huh, Cole said. Uh-huh, no, he's right here. He held the phone out. Ochoa wants you. Ethan took it like it was hot. Yes, sir. Walker. Ochoa sounded like a man who hadn't sat down since morning. I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear all of it before you react. Can you do that? Yes, sir. We picked up Calvin Reed at 2:15. He's been in a room for 2 hours. Ethan's legs went. He lawyered up in 11 minutes, which fine, that's his right. Here's the thing. Paper shuffling. 20 minutes ago, Roy Dean Reed walked into this building on his own 2 feet with a folder. He what? Walked in. No warrant, nobody called him. Sat down and said he'd like to make a statement. Ochoa's voice was flat. Son, that man threw his cousin under a bus so fast I got windburn. Names, dates, 6 of the 11. He kept records. Why, Ethan said. Why would he? Because he's the smart one, Ochoa said. And the second that footage request hit his system Saturday, he knew somebody had a case number, and a man with cameras knows better than anybody what cameras do. He cleared his own drive. Didn't occur to him that a gas station across the road had an insurance box in the ceiling that don't belong to the gas station. A pause. Nobody knew about that camera, Walker. Not him, not his cousin, not the manager. 6 years. Ethan sat down on the floor. Just sat down right there with the phone against his ear. So what happens to him? He gets a deal. That's how it works, and I'm not going to pretend it's pretty. He watched. I know. He sat in a car and watched Walker. Ochoa's voice changed. You want me to lie to you, or you want the truth? Truth. The truth is Roy Dean Reed is going to do less time than he deserves, and because of that, Calvin Reed is going to do more than he ever thought possible, and 6 people who got run over between 2019 and now are going to get a phone call from my office. That's the trade. That's the whole trade. I've been doing this 19 years, and that's the best it gets. Ethan pressed his hand over his eyes. 6 people, he said. 6 that we can prove. Probably more. They're going to get a call. Yeah. Somebody's going to call them, Ethan said, and say it wasn't your fault. The line was quiet. Yes, son, Ochoa said. That's about the size of it. And Ethan Walker sat on the concrete floor of a motorcycle repair shop and cried harder than he had at any point in 8 months, not for himself, not once, for himself, for six strangers he had never met who were going to get a phone call. Walker, one more thing. Yeah. The manager, Dale Ferris. Ochoa exhaled. He's not in trouble. I want to be straight with you about that. He didn't break a law. Throwing out property off his lot, that's ugly. That ain't criminal. I know. You know, sir, I've known that since Saturday, Ethan said. I never thought Dale was the bad guy. Dale's just a guy who was scared and picked the safe answer. He wiped his face. That's most people. That's not a crime. That's just most people. Ochoa didn't say anything for a second. How old are you? He said. 18. Yeah, Ochoa said. Okay. Marla's hearing was on a Thursday 3 weeks later, and it took 11 minutes. She'd been fired for cause. That was the paperwork. And the paperwork got real quiet when a lawyer, Deb, knew a woman named Estella who did this on Thursdays for free and rode a Sportster on Sundays, put a sheriff's case number on the table, and asked politely whether Mr. Ferris was aware that the cause was a conversation with a witness in an open criminal matter. Dale didn't come. He sent a letter. Marla got 11 weeks back pay, and Ethan sat in the third row and watched her hands shake around a purse strap the whole time, and when it was over, she stood up and turned around and looked for him first. Not at Estella, not at the hearing officer. For him. I don't want to work there anyway, she said in the parking lot and lit a cigarette with 3 tries. You know that I said that out loud last night to my kid. 11 years I'd have told you I love that job. I've never hated anything so much in my life. Marla, don't. She held up a hand. Kid, if you say thank you one more time, I'll slap you. I wasn't going to say thank you. Yeah, she squinted. What were you going to say? I was going to ask if you wanted a job. Marla stared at him. She said are 18. I know, I'm not offering it. Deb is. She's been doing the books at the shop for 6 years with a shoebox and a pencil, and she says if she has to do one more sales tax quarter, she's going to drive into the lake. He shrugged. She said ask you. She's been asking me to ask you for a week, and I kept not doing it because I was scared you'd think it was charity. It is charity. Marla, you ran a register for 11 years for a man who wouldn't spend $400 on a camera. Ethan looked at her. That's not charity. That's Deb being smart. Marla smoked for a while. Does it have insurance? She said. I don't know. Probably I don't know how any of this works. It's got insurance, Marla said. Trust me, honey, that woman's got insurance. She started the second Monday in October. Ethan started the same day. That was Cole's idea, and it went badly for about 2 weeks because on day 3, Ethan mounted a rear tire backward and stood there staring at it with his whole face going gray, and Tank came over and looked at it and said, Yep, that's backwards. And Ethan said, I'm sorry, I'll fix it, I'll stay late, Kid, I'll pay for it, I'll work it off, just don't. Kid. Ethan stopped. Don't what? Tank said. Ethan didn't answer. Go on, Tank said. Finish it. Don't what? Don't send me back. The shop got quiet. Somebody turned an impact wrench off. Ethan, Tank said, there's nowhere to send you. I know. No, you don't. Listen to me. Tank crouched down so they were eye level, and Ethan understood in that moment that a man had done that for him once before in gravel on a Saturday. There's no van. There's no lady with a clipboard. That's over. That's done. You got a bad tire on a bike, that's Tuesday. I did that in 2009, and Jackson called me a name I won't repeat, and then he showed me how, and that's it. That's the whole thing that happened. Ethan's jaw worked. You mount it backwards again next week, Tank said. You know what happens? I say that's backwards. Same as today. Forever. That's what a job is. Ethan turned around and put both hands on the workbench and stood there for a minute. Nobody said anything and nobody left, and that was the point. He got his GED in March. Wheeler drove him. Wheeler drove him because Wheeler had a daughter who'd taken it at 19, and Wheeler had missed it, had been somewhere else that day for a reason he never explained. And when Ethan came out of that building holding a piece of paper, Wheeler was standing by the truck with his arms crossed, and he did not say one word. He just took the paper and read it. "That's your name," he said. "Yeah, that's your name printed on a thing." "Yeah," Ethan said, and his voice went. Wheeler handed it back and got in the truck and drove them home and did not mention it again ever. And Ethan Walker understood exactly what that man had been doing and loved him for it for the rest of his life. Calvin Reed took a plea in April. 4 years. Ethan didn't go. Cole asked him twice and he said no both times. And the second time Cole said, "You sure a lot of folks would want to be in that room." And Ethan said, "I know what he looks like. I don't need to see it again." What he did instead was write 6 letters. That was Estella's idea, sort of. She had mentioned that victim notification had gone out, and Ethan had asked if he was allowed to write to them. And she'd said it was complicated, and he'd said okay, and then he'd sat at Deb's kitchen table for 4 nights and written 6 letters anyway, and given them to Estella to send however she could. He never showed anybody what was in them. 3 wrote back. One of them was a woman in Buckeye who'd lost a job at a nursing home in 2021, over a phone that was never stolen, and her letter was 2 pages long, and Ethan read it once in the bathroom of the shop with the door locked, and then he put it in his back pocket and carried it there for a month until it fell apart. "What did it say?" Deb asked him once. "It said she'd stopped telling people," Ethan said. "That's it? That's the whole thing?" She said for 4 years she stopped telling people the story because of how they looked at her, and then she got a phone call from a deputy, and she called her sister and told it. Deb didn't say anything. 4 years, Ethan said. She had it right the whole time, and she stopped saying it out loud because nobody believed her. He looked at Deb. "That's the thing he actually stole, right? Everybody keeps talking about the money. It was never the money." "No," Deb said, "it wasn't. They gave him the picture in September. 1 year almost to the day. He didn't know it was coming. Nobody told him anything. They just said, be at the shop Saturday morning, wear something clean, and Ethan spent the whole night convinced he was getting fired, because that's a thing that doesn't wash out of a person in a year and might not ever. There were 60 bikes in that lot. 60. He came out the door and stopped so fast he nearly fell. And Tank was there, and Deb and Wheeler and Curtis, and the other Curtis and Marla with her kid on her hip, and Estella and a deputy named Ochoa standing off to the side in a windbreaker looking deeply uncomfortable and absolutely not leaving. "What is this?" Ethan said. "Shut up," Deb said. Cole came through the crowd with something in his hands. "You've been here a year," he said. "I know." "Do you?" Ethan looked around. "Jackson, what is this?" "Why are there 60? Because I made some calls," Cole said, "and I told them what you did, and every single one of them said what time." Ethan couldn't speak. "Now listen." Cole cleared his throat, and Ethan realized with total disbelief that the man was nervous. "We couldn't get your mother's picture back. I want to say that first. We tried. I had a guy call the waste company, and there's no getting it. It's gone. That's real, and I'm not going to stand here and pretend it isn't." Ethan nodded. He'd known that for a year. "But you said a thing to me on the phone one night," Cole said. "You said you didn't have proof anybody ever had you." He held it out. It was a photograph. 8 men standing in front of 8 motorcycles, shoulder to shoulder, arms around each other, squinting into the sun, half of them laughing at whoever was taking it. And in the middle of them, 22 years old, gray, nowhere in his beard, yet a young Jackson Cole with his head thrown back. "That's the one from my wallet," Ethan said. "That's a copy of the one from my wallet." Cole's voice was rough. "I had it scanned. Took me 4 months to find a fella who could do it right, and then I had him make another one." He held out the second photograph. Ethan took it. 60 people in a repair shop lot. A tall, gray-bearded man with his arm around a kid's shoulders. A woman with a silver braid. A big man with a shaved head. A boy in a clean shirt with his name stitched on the front, squinting into the sun. Not smiling, the smile, not that one, not the drawer one, but a different one entirely. One nobody in that lot had ever seen before. Ethan stared at it. "That was taken 20 minutes ago," Cole said. "Wheeler's got a drone. Don't ask." "I didn't," Ethan's voice broke in half. "I didn't know." That's the point of a candid son. Ethan couldn't hold his face together. He stood in that lot with a photograph in each hand, and his shoulders came apart. And Deb reached for him, and he didn't flinch. Didn't flinch, not even a little. And that was the thing Cole noticed and had to look away from, and Marla was already crying, and Tank was blowing his nose like a foghorn and pretending it was allergies. You thought you found a wallet that morning, Cole said. Ethan looked up. I've been waiting a year to say this, Cole said. So let me say it right. You didn't find a wallet. You found the one and only thing in that parking lot that couldn't be taken off you. And you were starving, and you were 18 years old, and you held on to it with a man's boot on your arm. Jackson, we didn't save you. Cole put his hand on the back of Ethan's neck the way he had once in a shop at 11 o'clock at night. I need you to hear that part. Everybody's going to tell this story wrong. They're going to say a bunch of bikers saved a homeless kid, and that's a nice story, and it ain't what happened. Then what happened? You decided who you were in an empty parking lot with nobody watching, Cole said, and we just showed up and agreed with you. Ethan Walker put his face in his hands, and 60 people stood in a lot on a Saturday morning and let him. He's 24 now. He runs the second bay at that shop, and he's got Tank's old stool and a lease on an apartment with a door that locks, and he still wakes up at 4 in the morning and sometimes and lies there listening and probably always will. The 2 photographs are framed on the wall by the door. He looks at them every morning on the way out. Not for long, 4 seconds maybe. And once a month on a Thursday, he drives out to a county road and sits in a diner with kids who came out of the system at 18 with a folder and a pie chart, and he buys them breakfast. And he doesn't lecture them, and he doesn't tell them his story unless they ask. What he does is give them a napkin with 10 digits on it. And when they take it politely and fold it up and put it in their pocket, with that look on their face, that look, he knows that look. He invented that look. He says the only sentence that has ever mattered, you're not gonna call. I know. Take it anyway. Some of them call. And every single time that phone rings, Ethan Walker answers it before the second ring, because a man in a leather vest taught him what it cost not to, and because the world took everything he had in a single afternoon and never once managed to take the only thing he actually owned. He chose who he was on a Saturday morning with nobody watching, and nobody not ever has been able to take it back.